seminar.
Today we have the privilege to have experts from the field of education who shall be reflecting on the theme of the seminar. However, before we begin in keeping up with the tradition of our cultural heritage, we will begin with the prayer song and invoke the blessings of the Almighty. Please, all of you, join prayer songs.
एकदन्ताय वक्रतुण्डाय गौरीतनयाय धीमहि गजेशानाय बालचन्द्राय श्रीगणेशाय धीमहि एकदन्ताय वक्रतुण्डाय गौरीतनयाय धीमहि गजेशानाय बालचन्द्राय श्रीगणेशाय धीमहि.
Thank you, Srinitya. Now, I shall begin by lending of gratitude to Chief Patrons, Dr. Vijen Reddy Sir, Shri Upendra Reddy Sir, Shri Rajashekar Reddy Sir, and Shri Prabhakar Reddy Garu, and Head of the institution, Dr. J.V. Ravindra Sir, for entrusting us with the successful conduction of this seminar. I would now like to request respected Principal of Vardhaman College of Engineering, Dr. J.V. Ravindra Sir, the patron of the seminar, to give a warm reception to the luminaries present here. Sir, please, over to you, sir. Principal, sir, please, over to you.
Am I audible?
Yes, sir, you are audible, sir.
Thank you very much, and good morning to one and all. So once again, thank you very much for joining this two-day national level seminar on effective implementation of NEP 2020 in the realm of engineering education. And of course, it's an indeed great pleasure to invite all the dignitaries for this program, especially mentioned Sir S.S. Mata sir, ex-State Mind ACT sir. Very good morning, sir. Many thanks to you, sir, for accepting our invitation and interested to share his valuable guidance and suggestions in NEP. I'm of course very thankful to Professor K. Rajnikant sir, former principal MSRIT Bangalore. Other than these two dignitaries, there are several other speakers who are going to speak about on the other themes of NEP. Let me just speak about a bit about Vardhaman Engineering College. So it is located very near to Hyderabad Airport, which is Shamshabad, and this college started in 1999, sir. With an initial intake of 180. Now it's spread its wings to all the programs, and almost 5,000 students as of now on the campus. The college is NAC A++ accredited with 3.58 CGPA, and all the programs are accredited by NBA under Tier 1. And this is an autonomous college, but under the umbrella of Jawaharlal Nehru Technological University, Hyderabad, JNU Hyderabad. So the college also offers PG programs in technology as well as in the business administration. So this is about the college, and as we all know that the world is undergoing rapid changes in the knowledge of landscape. But of course, there is a lot of gap between industry and academia, and people like other consortiums like UGC, AICT, and in educational institutes, as well as the industry, is trying to fill the gap between these two, because over a period of time this gap is growing very fast. I would say after COVID the gap has gone 10x speed. So such policies, the new policies should come wherein the student should get a lot of benefit of it, and it's all our responsibility to really prepare the skilled persons before they go to the industry. So NEP is such kind of things. That's what actually I feel about. We just want to hear from what all about this NEP from the leaders in the education streams. So once again, I'm very thankful to all of you, sir, for our accepting our invitation and to be kind of you here. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for that, sir.
Thank you so much, sir, for those warm and inspirational words. Now, I would request the audience to welcome our esteemed chief guest, S.S. Manthal, sir, former ACT chairman, to please inaugurate the seminar. So, please over to you, sir, for inaugural.
Hello.
Yes, sir. It's audible, sir.
Yeah. So we'll start the presentation.
Yes, sir. You can. Please.
Yeah. So first of all, I'll try and share a presentation here. So I suppose it's visible.
Yes, sir. It is visible, sir. Sir. Sir.
It's visible now.
Yeah, it is visible, sir.
Yeah.
Manthal, sir. Sir, actually, we planned for inaugural session now.
Okay.
Will you take this session now, sir? Or shall we start the keynote speakers?
I mean, you can certainly start at whatever time you need.
Right, sir.
So it's always good to have these, programs to make the people understand what the current challenges are.
Yes, sir.
And what the current opportunities are.
Yes, sir.
And, therefore, we believe,
మేడం మాట్లాడినప్పుడే వస్తుంది మీతో
and I believe your institution also has a good NAC rating.
Yes, sir.
And therefore, for the faculty, it's always beneficial to talk about the current issues.
Okay.
And therefore, my best wishes to the institution in organizing the program, and also for all the future endeavors. More of it when the presentation on NEP is required, when the keynote address is required, I'll come back again.
Yes,
Thank
yes,
you.
sir. Just I'll take 2 minutes, sir. I'll hand out just 2 minutes, sir. Yes, sir. I'll take privilege to introduce our chief guest, Dr. S.S. Manthal, sir. He is former chairman of National Regulator ACTE, implemented several governance initiatives and facilitating regulations in a 6-year stint. Earlier, a professor of robotics, control theory, and AI at DJTI. He now occupies the emeritus chair. He has more than 280 publications in national and international journals and conferences, besides authoring 3 books. He is the author of NBEQF, now renamed National Skill Qualification Framework, that is NSQF. He was member Karnataka Skill Development Authority and advisor to Government of Andhra Pradesh. He was also the Chancellor, Kale University for 3 years. Currently, he is the CEO of Mahapreet Startup Knowledge Center, a subsidiary of Government of Maharashtra. He is also an adjunct professor at the National Institute for Advanced Studies, that is NIAS, Bangalore, an emeritus professor at DJTI and chairman of Technical Committee, National Cyber Safety and Security Standards, NCSSS, and IT expert for the Government of Maharashtra. So today we are very fortunate to have you here, sir. Now I will give you the session. Please take it. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, so we begin the.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, sir.
ఇప్పుడు పార్టిసిపెంట్స్ అన్ని చూడండి పార్టిసిపెంట్
బికాస్ అటెండ్
రికార్డింగ్ నీది కనెక్ట్ అయ్యాము, నువ్వు చేంజెస్ చేస్తే అక్కడ చేంజెస్ అవుతుంది. మెయిల్ పంపించారు సార్. సంకూరి వచ్చారు కొత్తదా, ఇంకెందుకు అయిపోయింది. యూట్యూబ్ లింక్ దొరుకుతుంది, వైరల్ వస్తుంది.
యూట్యూబ్ లింక్ ఉంది మేడం, చూడండి.
ఫ్యామిలీలో పోస్ట్
చూడండి, పర్లేదు.
ఓన్లీ ఫ్యామిలీ బ్యాక్ దాంట్లో
అసలు
స్పీకర్ సౌండ్ రావట్లేదు. స్పీకర్ సౌండ్ రావట్లేదు. స్పీకర్
మూమెంట్ అది
బాలకృష్ణ సౌండ్ రావట్లేదు.
ఇది పంపించారు నాకు.
Entire document. Then I also spoke about self-reliance, which is a very big part of the national education policy, and that in very simple terms is sarvam paravasham dukkham, sarvam atmavasham sukham. Sarvam paravasham dukkham, anything that is in the control of others is always a cause for worry, is always a cause for dukkha. And sarvam atmavasham sukham, anything that is in the control of in our country will lead to happiness. So that is the spirit which is carried forward throughout the document of the national education policy. Now it's obviously built on some foundational pillars like access, which means education should be available to all, equity in the same way as it is available to anyone else, quality, which should, we all understand there are several dimensions of quality to education, and therefore quality makes a big, has a big reference in the document. Affordability, anyone who needs education should be able to afford, and the cost cannot be prohibitive. And in fact, in the constitution, if you see, education in this country is not for profit, and therefore affordability becomes a very key factor in reaching higher education to everyone. And accountability, that's very important. Every stakeholder in the education supply chain must be accountable. For example, the students, the faculty, the management, the society, everyone must be accountable to the overall objectives. One of the main objectives is affordability, and therefore there must be something done so that education reaches everyone. And the policy also talks about raising the GER to about 50, and which means that we need to look at everyone's accountable possibility overall, so that the higher education objective is affordability. You also must be knowing there must be some primary education done so that anti-education reaches children and every hour. The policy also talks about raising the schools, primary schools, and in the secondary means we need to look at everyone. So it's accountable. So overall, there is a lot to do in this space of higher education objectives and affordability. You also must be knowing there must be in the early days we have to done so that anti-education means still in some children, and we have the policy also talks about raising the schools, primary schools, in a classroom, and in the secondary means students there. So it's accountable. So overall, there is a lot to do in this space of higher education. You also first is in the early days, there are times that education is still in the phase. So we need policy teachers to start focusing on schools. Education is classroom, we are central means as we move along, maybe there are things that in the early days, there are times whether it's online education or we need teachers schools, education is classroom, many years as we move along, must be knowing about it. Maybe there are things that nonetheless, writer, he was an American by birth, and he predicted several things. Of course, not everything that he predicted came true. He predicted about internet, that came true, and there are several other things which he spoke about in a futuristic sense. Let's see what he says. The future schools from the times of Gurukul should be open 24 hours a day. Customized educational experience, which means any student who needs whatever he thinks he should study, he should be able to customize the education space. Students arriving at different times. There is no single structure, 9 to 5 or 9 to 10 to 5. That students should be able to come to a school, a college at any time they desire. Students begin their formalized schooling at different ages. Why should it be that all children should start schooling at the age of 5 or whatever? So the times are changing, thinking is changing, curriculum is integrated across disciplines. Today we have silos. The mechanical engineering people do not interact with the electronics people or the civil engineering people, and so on and so forth. In future, curriculum will be multidisciplinary, interdisciplinary, intradisciplinary, and even maybe transdisciplinary. And therefore, curriculum must be integrated across disciplines. Non-teachers work with teachers, so the skill building, the competency-based skills are possible only when you have the lab experts coming together with the teachers to make it a experiential learning experience. So teachers alternate working in schools and in business world. There's nothing like a full-time teacher. You will have teachers who are also in the industry, also doing business. Maybe they are self-employed. They would become teachers. The silos that we have created, where we say that only a PhD should become a professor and things like that, So those things will be disrupted in times to come. Local businesses, offices and schools, increased number of schools. Now all these are very, very ideas which were very futuristic at that time, but when Alvin Toffler probably predicted them, but today they have become almost a reality. And most of the things that you see on this slide are also a part of the national education policy. Now let's look at the reality check. We have spoken about something about the national education policy and what probably we are looking at and so on. But there is a reality check. What do we have currently? More than 60% of the population is below 30 years of age currently. We need an equitable education to serve all disparities, which means the education that we give to children must be the same quality, same the rigor and so on, to irrespective of whether one belongs to what caste, what class, religion, gender, disability or whatever. So the education that we impart must be equitable. Drop in the functioning of Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan and Rashtriya Madhyamik Shiksha Abhiyan by 31% and 71% in the year 2017. This means that all these things will have to be corrected as we go along, because NEP, in order that NEP is implemented and successfully implemented, it needs a lot of funding. One more important parameter that defines the equity is curriculum. What kind of curriculum we create, whether it's in the school system or whether it's in the higher education. That's a very important parameter that defines equity, defines affordability, and so on. We also insert and assert must address all concerns past. This is a curriculum revising, creating body, and they must address all concerns which of the past or the present or the future, and so on. There is a lot of emphasis on foundational literacy and numeracy. There are several research reports which you must have studied, which say that people cannot count, people cannot add, multiply, basic mathematical skills are not there, and so on. So all these will have to be streamlined. Extracurricular vocational streams must be available in schools, which is a very important part of NEP. Vocational education must start from class 6 with internships for all good 4 years. Now the policy also speaks about 6.6% GDP for education. But if you have seen even the first national education policy that we have had in 64, it talked about 6% GDP. And every education policy subsequent to that did talk about 6% GDP. Now today, we are still talking about 6% GDP. But what happens actually if you look at the metrics, we seem to be spending hardly 2.5 to 3% of the GDP on education, though we assign 6% of GDP. Even that is not spent. So we need to do a lot of work in this area, provide adequate funds so that the goals of the NEP are realized. Policy attempts to set economic directions through the delivery of education. Like I said, Atmanirbharta is a very important part of NEP. Let's look at schools first. NEP signals setting up new schools, establishment of and merging of new institutions. It's an extremely good idea. There are several schools with very few students and they are not viable. So one should explore how to merge them. But the challenge is in the public space, maybe they can be done. In the private space, can they really be done? The new 3+2+3+4 school curriculum, 12 years of schooling, replacing the existing 10+2+3 to graduation, may shift the burden from school back to learning. But then the devil is in the detailing of the document. These are all policies, very good, but then how do we implement them, how do we detail them is extremely important. Regularizing the Anganwadi. Now once you say that 3+2, when a child, the preschool part also when we include with the education system, there is a huge challenge that remains here. There are several lakhs of Anganwadi workers who are not exactly teachers. They are not even qualified to be a teacher. So how do we regularize them and moving forward is a challenge. Including preschool with government school system can also give you logistics challenges. So what to think? These are all good initiatives and we must really look at how to implement them. Now when we talk about pedagogies and improvement of quality due to NEP within the whether it's the school system or the higher education system, we must remember what people used to do many thousands of years ago. And the example that comes to mind is of Adi Shankaracharya, where he used in his matas, there are 4 matas and one additional matha in southern India, and therefore in all those matas, even today these matas are operative, mutts are operative, and therefore in those matas you have these pedagogies still followed, and there is something to learn from this in order to improve quality in our system today. There is Shravana Vidhi, which means listening attentively to what the Guru says. Manana Vidhi, after listening you meditate on and think it over as to what the Guru said and what it means, implies logical thinking, assimilating the essentials, and so on. Then you have Nididhyasa Vidhi, which means the method of reaching conclusions. Prashnottara Vidhi, there's a question-answer method which is followed in Upanishads. In fact, in the classrooms, it should be actively encouraged. The students should be encouraged to ask questions. Teachers should be in a position to answer them. that becomes Prashnottara Vidhi. Then there is a Tarka Vidhi, which means the method of reasoning for removing the doubts of the students, essentially the logic. Vyakhya Vidhi is exposition or tika or commentary or annotation used. And Adhyaropa Vidhi is a projection method where the student is guided to see from the real to the unreal. And then you have Drishtanta Vidhi for helping students understand difficult concepts through illustrations. Katha Kathana Vidhi is a storytelling. In fact, every teacher should imbibe the art of storytelling, and that is how the teaching process should progress. And then you have Upadesha Vidhi, where a teacher is there on one side, the students on the other side, whatever teacher says, the student listens. That is like Upadesh, and therefore that's Upadesha Vidhi. Unfortunately, what is happening in current education system is we are using only the Shravana Vidhi, first one, and the last one, Upadesha Vidhi. There are students who listen, there are teachers who speak, and therefore the quality suffers in many ways because we are not following the other methods. There is also one provision in the national education policy of English versus the others. Now, separating regulation from schools, from policy making, school operations, these are all good, but again, like I said, there are implementation challenges. Of course, mother tongue is extremely important. There is a three-language policy of using a local language, then mother tongue, and so on. But my point would be, rather than look at that, probably the third language should be Sanskrit, which is actually a build-up on several other languages. Several of the Devanagari scripts, they all come out of Sanskrit, and therefore that could be probably a binding. But there are challenges and which actually have to be solved, have to be looked at. Now, having looked at the primary and the secondary education, we look at the higher education. Now, GER in higher education to be raised to 50% by 2035 is a very good idea. 3.5 crore seats to be added to in higher education. That's again a very good. In fact, there are 36 million students in the higher education space today, which gives you that 25-26 GER. So not exactly an arithmetic doubling will give you 50, which means that if I make tomorrow 70 million students enter higher education, your GER becomes 50. It's not like that. There is it's not a linear relation. So you need many more students to come into the system so that 50 GER is realized. Then higher education curriculum should have flexibility of subjects. People should have choice of subjects. They should be able to select what they feel they should study, and so on. Multiple entry, exit to be allowed with appropriate certification. What it really, we'll come to that a little later. Multiple entry, exit, what it really means is, now when I assume that the graduate program is of 4 years, then multiple exit means I can exit at any level, maybe after the first year, maybe after second year, third year, fourth year, and so on. And multiple exit means I can come in back into the system at any point. Now, there are obviously challenges in implementing this. What we really need to understand is, why should a student exit after completing 2 years of a 4-year program? The reason is very simple. He may not be interested in the kind of education that's happening in the college, and therefore he wants to go out, try out something new, and maybe when he gets back the interest, he comes back into the system again. That is one way of looking at it. The second at it is, he runs out of the finances. He cannot support his education any longer. Maybe there are problems at home. Maybe he has to support the family, things like that. Maybe he has to work, and so on. So which means that he will quit. And later on, when his financial position is a little better, he probably wants to come back into the system again. All that is facilitated through a multi-point entry exit system as far as the regulatory part is concerned. Now the question is, when he goes out after 2 years, what does he do? In order to answer that question, the curriculum that you have at first year, second year, third year, fourth year must be completely related to the job role that is available in the industry. If there is no job role, what is the point in leaving a program after 2 years? I'll be probably going out and wasting time. So therefore, it's necessary to design the curriculum so that it meets the requirements, the skill sets that are required in the industry at that level, and then create higher order skills when he quits at third year or and so on. So that's about multi-point entry exit. Academic bank of credits to be established is another very important point of national education policy. What it really means is we are moving towards personalized education. What personalized education means is you allow a student to learn the way he wants to learn, what he wants to learn, and when he wants to learn. That's precisely what personalized education is. And in that process, I'll give you an example. Maybe when we move ahead in the presentation, there are more examples that I'll cite. The idea is if I want to study, let's say, mathematics from Andhra University, then I want to study physics from JNTU, then I want to study, let's say, chemistry from Jadavpur University in West Bengal, then all these things must be possible in academic bank of credits. What it means is I take a 3 credit or 4 credit program from Andhra University, and it certifies me for those 3-4 credits. And when I am registered in JNTU, JNTU recognizes those 3-4 credits and adds it to my bank where these credits are accumulating. And once when I accumulate the requisite number of credits, which means maybe 100 to get a degree, the university in which I am registered in will award me the degree. So there is a lot of flexibility here, but then the challenge is in how we actually implement it. The National Research Foundation is a very good idea to promote research and so on. Regulation, higher education has all those 4 verticals. National Higher Education Regulatory Council for looking at only the regulatory part. Then General Education Council for standard setting, Higher Education Grants Council for funding, and National Accreditation Council for accreditation. It's good to separate out functional aspects, but then remember that unless all these 4 bodies work together, nothing concrete will ever happen. So therefore, the devil, like I said, is in the detailing. How are these 4 bodies hand-holding each other and things like that. Affiliation system is to be removed in 15 years with graded autonomy. We'll talk about autonomy and the affiliation system a little later. Increase use of technology with equity. National Education Technology Forum, which is extremely good. 2020 emphasizes gendering. These are all normal part of any education policy. Now, the policy also talks about certain attributes which are required for a student, like creative thinking, creativity, scientific temper, all this. Now, what I have not written in this is cognitive flexibility, which is extremely important from a student's perspective. Now, what is cognitive flexibility? The ability to move between job roles and adapt to different environments, different contexts is the cognitive flexibility. So as a mechanical engineer today, if I get into an automation space, tomorrow I should be able to get into an electrical engineering firm with a modified job role and so on, and not with extensive training that may be required. So therefore, ability to fit into different environments, do different things at different times with different objectives is cognitive flexibility, and that's something extremely important from a student's perspective in times to come. So these were the skills earlier, and these are the skills today. Emotional intelligence is another extremely important attribute that will be required. In very simple terms, what it means is, I'll give you an example. I'll cite an example. Uh, let's say there is a road accident, and there is a group that has gone around. They are looking at the accident. Some people actually get into the system and try and help the people who are injured. Some people will stand outside and just watch. Some people will make fun of the scene, and some people will criticize what was that fellow doing, he deserves it, things like that. All this is actually a function of emotional intelligence, and this is something that is required in an organization, in a company, to deal with your subordinates, to deal with your superiors, and so on. So therefore, that's a very important attribute that will be required. Now today the world is more complex than ever before. Everything, the shelf life is reducing. The skills that we acquire, if it is IT skills, it's just about 3 years this is the shelf life. Then we have to retrain, upskill, reskill, all that happens. So therefore, it's very necessary to understand the shorter product and idea life cycles. Then there are anybody can get into anything. The world is becoming more open, though it's becoming complex. So therefore, the competition grows in many ways. Let's look at, we'll attach the whole thing that I'm doing in the context of the national education policy. Look at the essential skills map that we require for digital transformation. Everybody talks about digital transformation today, and unless as an institution, as a university, if we are not looking at transforming the way we function, then probably we'll be a forgotten identity. So there are, in the whole world, there are 7 verticals largely defined where employment is available today. For example, engineering, data science, product, finance, marketing, and managers. These are the 7 verticals in where almost all the employment that is available today in the world can be mapped into these verticals. Whichever is the vertical, there are 3 skills that are required: the business skills, tech skills, and data skills. So if you are getting into finance company after engineering, maybe you have done an MBA in finance, the skills that you require in business area are mathematical finance, financial modeling, and financial engineering. As far as the technical skills are concerned, you need Microsoft Excel VBA, algorithmic trading, and visual analytics. And if it is data skills, you need forecasting, business analytics, and data visualization. This is how the matrix is read. Now go back, you are an autonomous institution, go back to your curriculum design and see how many of these things you have actually implemented in the curriculum. Now, if you did that, your placement becomes better, your outcomes become better, and in a longer time sense, you will be meeting the NEP goals. So business skills, technical skills, data skills are extremely important, irrespective of what discipline you are in. You may be in mechanical, you may be in electrical, you may be in civil, whatever that is. You will be ultimately going into some engineering firm or some data science firm or some product design firm and so on. And the future jobs, like I said, will require new skills. Therefore, your curriculum will need to be redesigned to meet these requirements and these challenges so that the outcomes of the NEP are met. So future jobs are in healthcare economy, data and AI, green technology, cloud computing, product development, and people, culture, and so on. Today, what is happening is the low-cost, low-skilled jobs, they are the hardest hit. So therefore, relook at your curriculum, see what kind of changes you need to bring in. If you understand the employment sector today, the earlier employment sector was a pyramid-like structure. There were low skills required, but large number of jobs at the base. And as you go up, the skill level goes up, and the number of jobs come down. But today, if you look at this slide that I have, what it actually shows is, because of automation, because of AI agents and so on, industry 4.0 and essentially the large scale automation, what is happening is the entry level jobs are all automated, and use of AI is made there, and therefore the base is shrinking, the base of the pyramid is shrinking, and you need higher order skills even at the entry level today. So therefore your curriculum should address that. The intent and the content of NEP is extremely good. It aims to transform the intent and content of the education sector, which is what our Honorable Prime Minister said. Nothing to fault in that intent nor the content, but the content needs implementation. That can be a challenge. And whereas challenges can have intrinsic opportunities, learning how corporations have unlocked their value through stress times may be useful. Look at the corporations, how they have transformed, and then we will be able to transform the education space in today's times. For example, corporations such as GM and DuPont created business units, which were structured around products and geographic markets. And smaller business units sacrifice turnovers for flexibility and adaptability. Look at these two statements and try and retrofit into education space, and you will come out with very, very innovative solutions. So what is the quest in the NEP? Quest is for quality education, and quality education means knowledge, and knowledge means deductive and experiential. Deductive knowledge is what we do in the universities. Experiential is what we do on the job. So therefore, we need to connect the two and make the experience much better in terms of teaching, learning pedagogies. Now, in all this process, if you want to realize NEP, technology is the driver. Now, new teaching learning models must emerge, and centralized by function versus relatively decentralized by courses and region is what we require if we want to understand NEP. A conventional straight-jacketed education structure will have to be broken, and the various initiatives like accumulation of credits, multi-point entry, exit, they all precisely do this. And a strong BPR model is needed, business process re-engineering. You have to relook at the way you are delivering education today, and that will allow you to build processes which will improve the implementation of NEP in your institution or your university. Then there are several underlying drivers for the future of work which we must understand. There is economic structure, there is labor displacement, there is emerging landscape, and so on. For example, whenever we bring in technology, there is always a labor displacement, but it doesn't mean that labor doesn't find jobs. They find jobs, but they need training, they need retraining, they need upskilling, and so on. So in that space, you have to understand connectivity, machine capabilities, demographics, social expectations, which are the underlying drivers. Within the economic structure space, you need to understand that everything is becoming modular, global, and we need to talk about productivity, value polarization, and so on. So therefore, remote working, which we have already seen in the last 2 years, telepresence, collaborations, virtual worlds, machine operation, all these have become suddenly very, very important in the education space as well. Then marketplaces, crowdsourcing. In fact, I have a very live case of a lady who wanted to set up a university, and she approached me to, when I was talking to her, I found that there was difficulty in finding the finances to set up a Vedanta university. And then she hit upon an idea of crowdsourcing, and through crowdsourcing, open innovation, labor pools, managed crowds, enhanced mechanisms, she used all those methodologies and found the requisite money to establish the university. So therefore, these are not some fancy ideas that I'm proposing. They're all very, very doable in today's world. So now coming back to autonomy. Now, so you also have autonomy, and NEP talks about empowering more institutions through autonomy and so on. Today the institutions have to work under a multitude of regulations, and regulators have no autonomy. So if you see anything in the world will have some kind of regulation. Even the human body must be regulated, whether it's pulse, whether it's heartbeat, or anything that you talk about, it has to be regulated. So therefore, there are internal regulatory mechanisms, there are external regulatory mechanisms, and so on. So don't ever assume that you will be completely free out of a regulatory system if you are autonomous, or if you are something else, if you are a university or whatever. So, but they have their own advantages. In whatever that is, an autonomy survives, functions very well, only if the leader is good. A leader can make or break an institution. And the NEP talks about removing that regulatory framework and creating one single body. But again, like I said, the detailing will show how they will be functional, how they will be made functional. So another challenge really is we have 45,000 colleges, and is it possible to give 45,000 colleges autonomy? And how do you measure the quality after that? What is the benchmark against which quality will be actually measured? Things like that. So if the vice chancellor, or like I said, if the principal or the director is a towering personality and a leader par excellence, he creates his own space and then leads from the front, and only then autonomy survives. Only then autonomy succeeds. Otherwise, if you are open to persuasions, if you are open to pressures, if you are open to management's unreasonable requirements, then autonomy will suffer. Now, in the current world, we have a virtual and a networked world, and NEP also talks about it. From 25 to 50, if you want to reach in terms of GER, the only way to do that is through a virtual and networked system. Now, when I say this, what does it really mean? Building more brick and mortar institutions, assuming that it's a linear equation. Today we have 36 million students in the system. I'll make it 72 million students in the system. Today I have 45,000 colleges. I'll build another 45,000 colleges. I mean, this is all in the space of thinking loud. And if you really did that, is there a guarantee that 36 million more students will come to these institutions that are newly built? The answer is no. They will never come to such places. Today, also, if you see, you have vacancies and so on. So if you probably created more enabling scholarships and financial models, maybe there will be an increase of 5% to 10% into the system. But your GER will never become 50. So what is required is a virtual and networked institutional framework, which means online learning and the different modes of online learning, which will help people register, students to be registered wherever they are and learn from wherever they are, implement the multi-point entry exit in that space, allow students to accumulate credits. Then probably over a period of time you will reach that 50 GER. And massification of national skills qualification framework. NSQF is something that I had created during my tenure in the AICTE, and if you implement that NSQF in letter and spirit, you will also build the competency-based skills that are required for employment, and you will become employable and so on. Virtual laboratories and simulations add value, but they cannot replace the real. The hands-on skills must come from the workshops, from the actual doing, learning on the job kind of things. So not everything can be put online, not everything can be learnt online. Examination systems must transform from end semester to end year to continuous evaluation. That is a big idea in having a examination after 6 months, after 1 year, and then you find people not clearing them, and then you create all kinds of allowed to keep terms and things like that, So what must happen according to NEP is a continuous evaluation, and which means that a student should be evaluated on a weekly basis, and those points that you give to the student based on an analytics, which means a lot of technology must come in again, and that technology will allow you to create data analytics. Based on the data analytics, you evaluate the student every week, and then there will be no year-end exam, there will be no semester exam. You get him through if there are sufficient number of points at the end of the year. The vocational education that we are talking about must be multiple pathways must be available. A student must be able to get in from the school, whatever school system he has, into higher education, whether he's from ITI or ITC or technical college or a diploma or a degree or what. Some of these things are available today, but then they all need to be more streamlined as we move ahead. Now, when we talk about virtual and networked world, MOOCs must act as an aggregator in the value network. The idea is, why should we have so many, like in COVID times, you must have created some online mechanism. You must have reached students with a lot of lectures and webinars and all that through your online system. And all the 10,000 technical colleges in the country must have done something similar, and must have transferred some amount of, whether it's effective, not effective, that's a different matter. But reaching out to students, some online activity must have happened. And in that space, some teachers must have created some new content. Some teachers must have used someone else's content. Some institutions must have collaborated with Coursera or Udemy or edX or whatever. And that is how all these 10,000 technical colleges in the country, or the programs in the country, there are about 3,500 colleges in the country. They all must have done similar things. Now, if you look at the whole problem, the one thing comes to mind, if you're looking from outside, what comes to mind immediately is, why should everyone duplicate whatever the other fellow is doing? So therefore, can I build a platform which is independent of an institution, independent of a university, and so on? So what now happens is, a Vardhaman college will become an entity on this platform. Another institute would become an entity on this platform. Universities would also become entities, and students would become customers. And the whole thing will be operationalized through a value network that is essentially based on multi-tenant architecture, and where different applications that drive a university sit on that multi-tenant architecture. Then you multi-instance them, and each instance will be white labeled. So one of those instances on this universal platform will become Vardhaman College. One instance will become XYZ College, and so on. And the content will also need to be shared. If there is a good professor in Vardhaman College in physics, he will create physics content. And why can't that content be moved on the platform for every student? So ultimately, it becomes MOOCs becomes the aggregator in the value chain. Universities, everyone becomes a business partners. There is a digital platform that will be created, and so on. So ultimately, what we are actually talking about is a digital university. So there are different possibilities as we move along in time. All these things will happen. There's nothing very big that I'm saying. All these things will certainly happen. This is not in the realm of fantasy. It's not something not doable. Many people are already trying bits and pieces of this. So what I've spoken to you is about a virtual university. Everybody is a target audience here. The technology leaders, the data officers, the entrepreneurs, students, faculty, anybody in this ecosystem will become a target audience. So what now we are talking about, when we collect everyone together on a single platform, what we are talking about is a Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, revamping undergraduate education with multiple entry and exit operations, is all basically the whole world, everything, comes on a single platform. So whole world is a stage, something like that. So, like for example, if it's already happening in some sectors in some ways. If, for example, today's computer company can manufacture components China, assemble them in Mexico, ship them to Europe, service the purchases from call centers in India. All this is happening. So why can't mechanical engineering come from IIT Mumbai? Something else coming from astrophysics center in Hyderabad and things like that. So a credit concept, all that will be required is if I do something from a different place, then will the credits come to me for that part that I have done from a different place. That is where credit bank concept helps, academic bank of credits. So there is like a money bank, there is a credit bank, academic credits. So I do physics at my own time. I may take 1 year to complete physics, but I get at the end of it 4 credits given by so-and-so institution. And then maybe I'll do 2 programs the next year, mathematics and maybe, mechanics, and from a different university, and I get maybe 8 credits like that. So over a period of time, I accumulate 100 credits, and the place where I have registered will give me the degree. That's the concept that will probably come in time to come. So therefore the challenges are there, but the whole model looks very exciting. And unless the underlying factor is, unless you collaborate, unless you move with the times with other institutions, this will not be possible. Now, I have given 2 examples here, which makes my point very clear. Now, what is that? One sec. Something has happened. Yeah. So, 2 examples I've given here. One is imagine a complete personalized learning idea where a physics comes from Punjab University, which means it registers for physics in Punjab University. Mathematics registers in TIFR, chemistry from IISc, and astronomy course from Aryabhatta Research Institution in Hyderabad, and AI from IIT Hyderabad. They all lead to a career in astrophysics. So I have created my career in astrophysics. I have worked out all these possibilities and then register in different places, get credits from these different places. I accumulate maybe 100 credits that are required for me to be given a degree. That's it. So modern day skills, everything goes into this understanding. I'll give you one more example. Suppose, imagine improving business skills with a course in Agile Management from Martin Kropp, a leadership primer from Texas Tech, or our very own IIM Kozhikode, or improving technical skills with data structures and algorithms from University of California, Berkeley, and so on. All these possibilities are there, but the collaboration from foreign universities, foreign institutions, the second example that I've given is still not a part of NEP, but the possibilities are tremendous. And the new challenges, as we all know, there is Industry 4.0, you need autonomous robots, simulation, horizontal, vertical integration, IoT, cybersecurity, additive manufacturing, augmented reality, big data analytics. These are all part of the Industry 4.0, and therefore our curriculum must look at it. And it impacts every aspect of value chain, whether it's asset management, human resources, tools and fixtures, engineering design, whatever it is, it impacts the value chain, and therefore the curriculum again must be relooked at to improve our delivery. Then on one side you have IoT today. You have a power grid, you have any energy sector, solar grid or a wind energy grid, or the larger aspects of power grid, cyber security, Industry 4.0, smart factory, whatever application you think about today, there is Internet of Things on one side, which means there must be communicating devices which are all interconnected on the internet, and they all must be somewhere, talking to each other, autonomous agents and digital networking, which makes it possible. Between this, there are several activities, including Industry 4.0, smart factories, smart products, and so on. So in order to make that work, you need Labor 4.0 and Labor 4.0, which means Curriculum 4.0. And that is where we come back to institutions and universities in order to make this happen. So therefore, you need collaboration, you need communication, you need creativity, and you need critical thinking. There are a lot of benefits of cloud computing. I'm not going into that here. There is one other feature of Google career certificates, which you must have, also know. You may be knowing. Google has a certificate. People can complete Google certifications, and they can directly connect with a group of top employers. So they are not really looking at a diploma or a degree in a conventional sense, but they are looking at a suite of expertise certificates which give you which prove the expertise that you have. If you have that, then you can actually get into a meaningful employment even without a degree and a diploma. So this is the level of disaggregation that is happening at one side and aggregation that is happening on the other side through MOOCs like aggregators. But in all this story, there is a other side of the divide. 330 million students and 32 million in colleges. They are all affected by COVID-19. Many of them could not go through their studies basically because of internet, no smartphone devices, no laptops, and so on. So how do we address the divide? First of all, the content must be interactive, intuitive, and interesting. It's not that an interactive content on a website cannot be similar to what you have in a textbook. This has to be interactive. This should be like storytelling. It must make you interest. If you know, research says that 17 minutes is all that you can be engaged to a visual medium, and beyond 17 minutes, you will start doing other things. So therefore, unless your content is intuitive, which means it creates some kind of interest in you, that you are not going to do it, go through the entire coursework. So there comes one more technology initiative which says that why do children play games for hours together but not engage with a education lesson for not more than 16 minutes. So there is something that is happening while playing games, and that process needs to come back into the learning environment so that students become more engaged to the work that they're doing on the internet. So that is possible through gaming technology, gaming theories, and so on. So a lot of work is being done on that as well. Availability of devices, bandwidth in certain areas can be improved through BSNL network, through NIC network, sanitized mobile vans. If students cannot come to classrooms can go to students through mobile vans and so on. And if a maximum throughput and minimal interference is required for the conduct of nationwide teaching through that MOOCs aggregator, and even conduct exams online, channel 1, 6, and 11 in the 2.4 gigahertz ISM band, they are all available. Currently, much of that is used in the defense space. They can be used for education as well. And the government of India's DTH channels can reach the villages as well. Another option must be actively pursued is cable TV network. And whether people have food to eat or work to do, they all have some cable connection and they spend some time looking at what the cable offers. So if that is the case, why cannot we use the cable network for promoting education, at least during certain hours of the day? The higher education space is very cluttered today. It needs to be decluttered. So we have private universities, public universities, deemed to be universities, world-class universities, what is that, universities of eminence, and so on. But they ultimately they are all doing the same thing. So why have this kind of terminology at all? So the NEP also looks at rationalizing that terminology, and the recommendation of National Research Foundation to to promote research is a good idea, but then the role of HEFA must be clearly specified. In future, industries must reside inside the universities if productization has to happen, which is a very important part of NEP. A lot of PhDs are produced, a lot of papers are published. There are very good researchers in our country who move with the best of the people, work in best of the labs. They produce a lot of papers, but at the end of the day, how many products are we making? Nothing. So therefore, it's very necessary to change this paradigm, look at products as a means of enabling the faculty and not the research papers per se. Research papers will happen over a period of time, but that is not that should not be the prime interest. And in that space, you have a German model where Max Planck Society sets up institutions to conduct basic research, and Fraunhofer Gesellschaft University society sets up institutions anywhere in the world for using that basic research of Max Planck institution to be converted to applied research, and the whole thing happens on a single location of maybe 1,000 to 2,000 acres, where there's a central institution set up on the Fraunhofer model, and that interacts with every industry which is there located on the campus. Their research centers are located on the campus. The consultancy jobs, the technical jobs, they're all brought from the society, the requirements need-based analysis of the society, and then the development work is done on that. Then all these industries around the Fraunhofer institution, they handhold in order to create that product. So that is how a single entity creates several good products, and we all know Germany is very good at both mechanical and electronic products. Now, if we do that, it's not necessary that we bring new brick and mortar institutions or set up new institutions for this purpose, but it's very necessary to create this ecosystem which is possible from the existing institutions that we have. We only need to identify some university good at or institution good at some kind of startup culture, make that as the hub, and rest of the institutions are the spokes in order to create products. So universities, future universities must be places which coexist with the industry, become large multi-product, multi-process, multifunctional businesses. So that is how the GDP improves, the Startup India, Make in India concepts, they improve. So universities of future, as if we logically extend the outcomes expected out of NEP, then we need to change our business model. We need to cooperate structures enhancing interdisciplinary, multidisciplinary processes, new concepts for faculties or departments. So that becomes a change of organizational structures. There are also change of accreditation procedures required. We moved out from an open loop system in accreditation where we gave some inputs like classrooms, like so many faculty, they're all input based. From that we moved to some peer review which actually estimates if your program outcomes are there, if your course outcomes are met. So that's a slightly closed loop kind of system where we measure the errors, and then the peer team tells you these are the deficiencies. Then you go back, correct the system, and maybe in the next cycle you improve the system. That's a closed loop system. But we must move, as the world is moving today, to an adaptive system where different functions, functional areas, their expected outcomes must be defined, their expected inputs must be defined. For example, students have a certain input and certain outcomes are expected. For faculty, there are certain inputs, certain outcomes are expected. Similarly, from the society, certain inputs are there, certain outcomes are expected. Similarly, every single entity of the education supply chain has some input and some output. So if we can create a closed loop around each of those entities, then we are building a adaptive system of accreditation, and quality assurance becomes extremely important in that process. If you know, recently in the COVID times, we had in US 250 universities were sued for not going through their obligations. In fact, the parents and students went to court saying that you promised face-to-face education, now you're giving online education, and therefore you prove to us that both are similar, both are same. And the second is prove that a degree that is obtained through an online mode is as good as a degree that is obtained through offline mode. And because of that, they went to court challenging the fees that was charged. So then obviously the court said that the case cannot be admitted, and they dismissed the petition with the reason. What is the reason? That's very interesting. They said the reasons as to why what happened. You moved from offline to online. You moved from an offline degree to an online degree. You charge the same fees for doing that. The reasons for doing that was COVID, and COVID comes under your force majeure clause. So therefore we do not accept this and we dismiss the petition. But there is a lesson in what has happened. In future, such petitions will be there, and we need to assure quality, which means we need to guarantee quality. And if your program outcomes, if your course outcomes, which are actually your outcomes, and if you do not fulfill those outcomes, then you can be taken to court in times to come. So therefore, the change in accreditation process, the thought process, everything must change according to times. Teaching methods have to change. Teaching concepts, what you teach in classroom is learnt outside. What is learnt outside should be taught in the classroom. New teaching infrastructures are required. Your AR, VR technologies are required. Now all this will also move to digital rights management. Who's right? Who has what rights? What rights does the student have? What rights does the faculty have? What right does the industry have? The society have? All these things will have to be properly defined. Then change of learning. Now massive, your classroom 60 student, 100 student is moving to personalized learning of one student. We are actually going back to Shankaracharya times. New learning infrastructure, for example, increase computing capacities, shift from present learning, classroom learning to online learning. So that is the future. Or there is a vehicle which is a smart campus. I'm not going into this. So in order to enable all that I've spoken about, you need to really become smart, and you need to understand what is a smart campus. So we have in a smart campus, you have all this. You can see this on the slides. Then, you need financial security, you need education, delivery, there are costs, there are revenues. Security can be physical, it can be cyber. So students and researchers, faculty and staff, on one side, the physical system has an access control, there is a CCTV, there is an identification. And on the other side, you have a network and IT infrastructure, you have data, and you have build your own devices. So this is the campus of today, and technology will certainly integrate all this. So you need to put several things together. Some of the institutions have done it, some of the institutions have its work in progress. So the campus of tomorrow will have network systems, users, devices, and analytics on one side. On the other side, they will have reactive, proactive, and predictive systems. And both will be connected through data. It could be in a data center, it could be on a cloud, whatever. But that's the campus of tomorrow, which is a logical conclusion of what all you do on NEP. And finally, you will have an AI enabled university. Now, all the working of a university I have mapped here, and anything you talk about will become AI enabled. You already have, Alexa kind of chatbots which are available to you, which take students through the campus. They tell you a lot of things about your hostels, your support services, and so on. So some of it is already happening. So any policy will give you opportunities, but those opportunities will also come with challenges, and therefore we need to really look at the challenges to be solved in order to realize the opportunities. You have to forge alliances. Like I said, collaboration is very important with your neighboring institutions, with your neighboring universities, with institutions abroad. You need to create alliances and collaborations. Internationalization is extremely important. Only change is permanent, which we all know. So therefore, you need to adopt change. Change can be painful, but then change is all that matters. So everything has been changing. Our NEP will also force us to change if we are not ready to change. So the new world, entire system will need to transform into facilitating, student-centering. Gone are the days when teacher will tell you what he will teach and what to read. Now it should become student-centric paradigm. Student will tell you what he wants to learn and how he wants to learn. And all the stakeholders will need to retrofit their expectations to the new realities that are emerging. There is no point in saying that in the old days we did this, we did that. The faculty must move from being a teacher to a guide to a course monitor. That may not be easy, but that is what is required. A good coursework will come from Coursera, which you will project in your classroom. As a teacher, you must handhold what is happening on the screen through a Coursera coursework or a Udemy coursework. So you have from a teacher, you must transform into a guide, into a course monitor, and things like that. And it does not work if the education supply chain is not in sync with the market requirements. Obviously, employment suffers. So in a self-reliance chart, you have education, health, employment, home storage, finance, spiritual strength, everything coming together. And NEP actually speaks about every one of these aspects. These are the references that I've used for my presentation. So anyone interested in that can later look at that. You can reach me. I'm there on the social media. I also run YouTube where I have some educational videos presented, and that's what it is. So this is the presentation. Thank you for the opportunity. And my if you have any questions, you can certainly ask.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Dear participants, any queries, please, from your side? Raise your hand. Dear participants, if any queries, please raise your hand.
Yes, ma'am. Hello.
Yes, it is audible, Tamal.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Am I audible, sir?
Yes.
Sir, I have a question based on this NEP. So according to the NEP 2020, the students, the students of private schools will be introduced English at a much earlier age than the students of the government schools, because the academic syllabus will be taught in the respective regional languages. So how do you see it in terms of othering? Because this would be increasing the gap between the sections of the society, because one group would be progressing with the English and other languages quite rapidly than the other people. So in the theory of Gayatri Chakraborty's PVAC, the concept of othering, so don't you think that modern India or the future India will see this gap between the two sections of the society further increasing? Thank you, sir.
First of all, your assumption that English causes progress and the other languages do not cross and therefore they are at a disadvantage is wrong. The thinking abilities are much better in a local language. And having said that, if people still want to learn English, the opportunity is still there. They can always learn English. But merely saying that the gap will be increased if one learns in a local language from the one who learns in English is not tenable. So therefore, the argument doesn't work. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. So anyone? Okay, so I think there is no more questions. Let me thank you, sir. Every slide of yours have words of wisdom and intensive analysis. Our participants enlighten on pillars on which edifice of NEP 2020 has been built are access, equity, quality, affordability, and accountability. And actually, challenges are there. It is important to understand the challenges. So the devil is the detailing apparently underscores the implementing challenges of NEP which need to be overcome. Thank you, sir, for those words of wisdom and ingenious way forward, including philosophy of Adi Shankaracharya and Alvin Toffler. Besides staying connected to our root language, Sanskrit, we should also realize the importance of cognitive flexibility, NSQF, skill-based curriculum, which would perfectly weigh between the ancient philosophy and the needs of modern education. As you told, Vardhaman definitely will become an entity to create a platform, virtual platform to reach education to each and every student. Definitely will promise for that, sir. And thank you for your valuable speech to our participants. So thank you, a big thanks to you, sir.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Thank you, sir.
So I suppose I can leave.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Yes. Yeah. Yes, sir. So, participants, now we can start the second session. So, to shed up more light on this theme, it is my proud privilege to introduce and invite Dr. K. Rajnikant sir. So, let me introduce Dr. Rajnikant sir. So, please welcome. So, he's former advisor, principal, MS Ramaya Institute of Technology, Bangalore. His academic qualifications, BE Electrical from Sri Venkateshwara University and ME and PhD from School of Automation, Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore. He worked at MS Ramaya Institute of Technology, Bangalore, Kakatiya Institute of Technology and Science, Warangal, and Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore. And he has industrial experience and he worked as chairman and technical director, Electro Systems Associates Private Limited, Bangalore. He services to the Vishveshwaraya Technological University, Belagavi, and he is former member of Academic Senate Staff Recruitment Committee, and he is Faculty Advisor Committee and Finance Committee, and he is former chairman of Board of Studies in Computer Science, Information Science, MCA, Research Review Committee in Computer Science, and R&D point of view, he is a chief technical consultant for 2 projects at MSRIT on life cycle cost estimation for defense equipment, DRDO, publications in several international and national conferences and journals. As technical director of ESA, designed and developed a variety of microprocessor, microcontroller based products which have been used widely in the country, and he developed several custom designed systems for ADA, BPL, IPA, etc., and developed several developmental tools for industrial applications. And Sir's current interests, software engineering, artificial intelligence and machine learning, embedded systems, engineering education, general higher education and accreditation, a resource person for several workshops and NPTEL courses on accreditation. So this is profile about Dr. K. Rajnikant sir. Sir, it's our pleasure to have you, sir. Please take over to you, sir. Rajnikant sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Let me begin by sharing my screen.
It's visible, sir.
My screen is visible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay.
It's clear.
Thank you, ma'am, for your nice words, and
Thank you.
greetings to all of you.
Yes, sir.
At the outset, let me compliment the IQAC, Vardhaman College of Engineering, for organizing a national level seminar on this important topic, the NEP and its effective implementation. It has become very critical for all of us at higher education institutions to get a feel for what is the scope of NEP and what are the challenges in implementing NEP. So this topic has become extremely important for all of us. So I compliment IQAC for organizing the seminar on this important topic. Kudos to you, ma'am, and your team.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. With all your support, sir. Thank you, sir.
Great. And then let me also thank them for giving me this opportunity to interact with all of you and learn something from this interaction. From the excellent exposition by Professor Manta just now, which you heard, you can see that NEP is fairly complex in the sense that the scope is very vast. So obviously in this limited time, would not be able to touch on all the aspects, but on some of the topics which are going to come up in the rest of the sessions today as well as tomorrow, I'll touch upon some of them and they will be elaborated more in the later sessions. Now, ma'am, it is almost 11:20. So
yes, sir.
When do I close? Because at least 10 minutes would like to give for question answers. So if you suggest a time, then I'll try to close it by that time.
Sir, 1 hour you can take, sir. 50 minutes you can take your session. 10 minutes we can give for query session, sir.
Oh, great. Then that will eat into the next speaker's time, but thanks anyway.
Yes, thank you, sir.
Okay, wonderful. So
yes,
what we'll do is I'll take about 45 to 50 minutes. Then
yes,
if you have any questions, you can post it in the chat box and ma'am can read out those questions for me to answer.
Yes,
or if one of you wishes to ask, she could enable you. So that's also fine with us.
Yes,
so
sir.
That's how we'll go. Okay.
Yeah, we will do so. We'll do so.
Wonderful. So very briefly, already, as we all know, it's recognized that education is the key to achieving the full human potential. This has been recognized in India since ages, but for whatever reasons, not everyone is able to get to the education in equal way. So equity has become really very important, but this is recognized as the key to achieving the full human potential. Now, we had several educational policies earlier also. Primarily the 1986 policy focused on issues of access and equity. That was very important at the time because not many people had access to education. Whatever be the nature of the education, quality education or any education, they did not have access. So the focus was on that. Then its modified version, the 1986-92 policy also had the same focus. Then Right of Children to Free and Compulsory Education Act 2009 laid down the legal underpinning for achieving universal elementary education. That was the focus at that time. And 2015, India adopted the UN 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. That's what we already heard. And the goal 4 of the Sustainable Development is that ensure inclusive and equitable quality education and promote lifelong learning for all by 2030. That is the Sustainable Development Goal 4. And the NEP's focus is on this goal: inclusive, equitable, quality education and lifelong learning. So the NEP focuses around this. So this requires a major reconfiguration of the entire education system, right from early childhood education, what you may call as the LKG kind of education, all the way up to research. So the entire education system needs to be reimagined and reconfigured. So that is the thrust of the NEP 2020. This is the first education policy of the 21st century. Now, the vision of NEP 2020 is primarily, first thing is a rootedness in Indian ethos. That is the focus, that we would like to uphold the values of the Indian education system. So a rootedness in Indian ethos. Then a respect towards fundamental duties and constitutional values. That means as a human being, as a citizen, the individuals must be developed. And the education is a part of building up an individual towards that. So it's just not merely the technology or merely the cognitive processing abilities, but a basic aspect of the personality, a respect towards fundamental duties and constitutional values. A deep sense of that is the second part of the vision. Then as a corollary to this and as an addition to this, commitment to human rights, sustainable development and living and global well-being, thereby reflecting a truly global citizen. Now it has become really a true connected kind of village today. So a commitment towards becoming a better global citizen is also another important aspect of this vision. So you can see very lofty ideals underlie the NEP 2020. But yes, there are issues. And the NEP 2020 has fundamental principles, which are 22. And I would strongly urge, I'm not mentioning all of them here because of lack of time, but I would strongly urge all of you to go through all these because these 22 fundamental principles essentially guide both the education system at large as well as individual institutions. Now, these essentially give the spirit of the NEP 2020. So going through all these principles and understanding them would be an excellent beginning to understanding the implications of NEP as well as taking up the policies for implementing NEP. So among these 22 fundamental principles, some of them mentioned here, as I already said, a rootedness and pride in India. So that is one important principle. The second extremely important one is no hard separations between arts and sciences. This has been traditionally a kind of independent, fragmented higher education system in India. Science is different, arts is different, technology is different, kind of a thing. So that kind of a separation is to be broken up. The walls need to be broken down. There cannot be any independent silos in which these are pursued. There must be an integrated approach to education. So no hard separations between arts, science, technology, curricular, extracurricular, vocational, academic, all these need to be broken down. Education must be seen as an integrated whole. That is another key concept here. Then multidisciplinary and holistic education. So this essentially similar kind of an idea, extension of that idea. So this cuts across sciences, social sciences, arts, humanities, sports. So basically a multidisciplinary and holistic education. So this will ensure the unity and integrity of all knowledge. Then conceptual understanding, creativity and critical thinking rather than rote learning and learning for exams. Today with the availability of online resources, particularly Google, facts are very easily available at the tip of a finger. There is no need to memorize the kind of factual knowledge. At the touch of a finger, we can get whatever facts we need from the internet resources. So the rote learning has lost its focus. What we need today would be a higher order thinking abilities, higher order thinking skills, or some people would call them as HOTS, a conceptual understanding and creativity and critical thinking. So logical decision making, innovation, these are the things that need to be promoted in the education system. Then, as already mentioned, the NEP lays great stress on things other than purely knowledge oriented things, ethics, human and constitutional values. And regulatory framework, this was touched upon by Professor Mantasar also, a very light but tight regulatory framework. In fact, all of us in the education system must have felt at some time or other the rigidity of the accreditation framework, whether it is NEP or NAC. So the NEP envisages a very light but tight regulatory framework. Then life skills such as communication, cooperation, teamwork and resilience. Now all of us are recognized that whatever be the kind of education that we provide, the students coming out must possess the ability to reskill themselves. So they are skills required throughout their professional career. So life skills, they include communication, cooperation, teamwork, things like that. Then in all this, they have realized that we need to leverage the technology. So NEP stresses the extensive use of technology in all aspects of education, teaching, learning, removing language barriers, or increasing access for Divyang students, education planning, management, every aspect of the education system, we must exploit the technology to realize the goals. Now, this is a very comprehensive policy and it touches on all aspects of education and it addresses all the stakeholders, students, parents, teachers, society in general. It's obviously when we are looking at the implementation, we need to prioritize different policy points for manageable implementation. Any institution today will not be able to implement the NEP 2020 in full in 2, 3, not even 5, 10 years. It may take much more than that. So we need to prioritize the different policy points. But what is important is to avoid the trap of considering the top 1 or 2 prioritized policy points of that we have picked up as all of NEP 2020. This one needs to be careful. I do prioritize the policy points and based on that, let us say I set up a school for Indian knowledge systems and promote my students to work there. Great. But that is not the whole of NEP 2020. So having done that, I should not be led into the complacency that, yeah, I have implementation of NEP 2020. Or an institution may allow its students to, let us say, take 6 credits or 8 credits or 4 credits as courses from different schools. For example, an engineering student may take as a course, not necessarily from some other engineering discipline, like an electrical student taking a course from mechanical engineering, that is one level, but we may go beyond that and we may permit an engineering student to take a course from the law school, let us say labor regulations, or a course from School of Performing Arts, let us say a course in Kuchipudi dance. It is perfectly possible and that is within the spirit of NEP. But again, that's not the whole of NEP. Or we may one program in a local language. Great. These are all wonderful initiatives. They are in the spirit of NEP 2020, but we should not be assuming that that is the whole of NEP 2020. So when we prioritize the different policy points, we must have a vision for implementing the entire policy, which means that we must understand the entire NEP and we must go through the document and look at the whole policy as one integral unit. So consider the policy as a whole. It's not a very big document, just only about 60 pages, 27 sections, 27 policy points essentially. It's only about 60 pages, so it should not be very difficult to look at the entire policy. Because one of the things that we see today is that for a variety of local reasons, someone promotes one particular policy point and then says this is what NEP is all about. And having implemented that, they try to proclaim we are following NEP 2020. So it's very important to have the entire policy understood as a totality, but definitely for the sake of implementation, we can prioritize the policy points, what you would like to implement in the next 2 years, next 10 years, kind of a thing. There are many white papers and they are becoming increasingly available regularly, elucidating NEP as well as discussing the impact of NEP on things like accreditation and also indicating implementation strategies. Several options are being proposed. You can pick up what suits your institution best based on your local resource strengths and constraints. So some of the examples are NEP 2020 implementation vision. So you can see, in fact, they are talking of a very long period, 2020 to 2047, 25-year period. So that is the kind of time frame that you need to implement NEP fully. Obviously, it cannot be done in a very short interval. So one has to be careful about that. So, but implementation of NEP 2020 is already on. Several initiatives in several states have been taken up and all stakeholders need to get on board. So it has become extremely important. And though there have been discussions on issues of certain reservations of certain states like Kerala regarding NEP 2020, today all stakeholders need to get on board. Currently, this is the most important education policy initiative, and we must understand this in totality. Very briefly, there are 4 parts in the document. Part 1 deals with school education, There are 8 chapters there. Then part 2 deals with higher education, chapters 9 to 19. But notice that in this, higher education is considered in general. It's not very specific to engineering education, but whatever is said in part 2 is applicable to engineering education also. But the part 2 talks of generally higher education. So this is chapters 9 to 19. Then part 3, certain other key areas of focus, chapters 20 to 24. In this, the first section deals with professional education. Again, professional education includes engineering and technology as well as agriculture and other things. So if you look at only engineering education, it occupies a very small part in the NEP document. But engineering education is higher education. So whatever is mentioned in part 2 becomes applicable for engineering education systems also. That means our engineering institutes have to look into part 2 in detail, and certain additional issues are dealt with in this section, professional education section of part 3. Then adult education and lifelong learning separately is mentioned. Then promotion of Indian languages, that is another key point. Then promotion of Indian languages, arts, culture. Then there are 2 issues which again are very important for our engineering institutes: technology use and integration, online and digital education, which essentially means how to these 2 deal with how to leverage the technology for implementing the NEP 2020. So 2 sections deal with the technology aspects. Then finally, part 4 deals with making it happen. So there are 3 policy points here: strengthening Central Advisory Board of Education, CAPE. Then financing, a very tricky issue, but NEP does not really deal with this in any great elaboration. So states, the center and other financing agencies and the managements have to really look into this issue carefully. How do we finance affordable and quality education for all? It's a very tricky issue, and NEP itself is not very elaborate or clear on this. Not even implementation strategies discussed in many documents focus very much on this aspect, because a little bit tricky and it is left. Then of course some implementation details are also discussed. So this is very briefly the NEP 2020, just about 60-page document. The first, and as I mentioned, we will not look into all these aspects, but only some of the issues I'll touch on. But you can pose any question and we can discuss the implications. So there are 8 policy points in the school education: early childhood care education, that is the foundation of learning. Then foundational literacy and numeracy, that is one. Then teachers, this I would like to focus. In all these systems, it is recognized well that teachers play a central role. With all the technology and everything in place also, still it is ultimately the teachers who have to ensure that this policy is implemented in true letter and true spirit. So in fact, even in the present accreditation system, if you see, the sections dealing with the teachers carry the maximum marks. For example, in NBA, the criterion dealing with teachers carries the maximum marks up to 100. So everyone recognizes that teachers play a central role. They are the change agents essentially. So that is realized even in school education. Then curriculum and pedagogy, that again has become today extremely important. We need to reimagine the curriculum and pedagogy. Then they also talk about curtailing the dropout rates. That is very severe in school education. Not so severe in higher education, but yes, it is there. Then equitable and inclusive education, learning for all. Then of course, standard setting and accreditation even for school education. But we will not discuss any further this idea, except to show that teachers, curriculum and pedagogy and the equitable inclusive education, they are here at the school education level also, and regulation also. Then higher education, this is actually where we should be focusing. There are 11 policy points: governance and leadership, a very critical issue. Then quality, restructuring the educational institutions to facilitate implementation of the NEP, in fact, equity and inclusion, then regulatory system, again, faculty, research, And in order to help with all these things, the teachers must be enabled. So that is also there. There is a separate teacher education section, then learning environment and student support, holistic education, and then vocational education. These are the 11 policy points for higher education. So we'll be spending a little bit more time on this because this is what really concerns us immediately. Some of the points which we need to look at: more holistic and multidisciplinary education. This we have been talking of this in all the platforms of NEP, that we need a more holistic and multidisciplinary education. But what actually it means, what it means in terms of the implementation challenges, that there seems to be considerable difference in the opinion of the speakers at several kind of workshops. But NEP is very clear. It says integration of liberal arts and humanities with science and technology. But would that really be feasible? What kind of challenges would be there in terms of the curriculum design, credit distribution? These are all things which need to be worked out. How much weight is to be given to these? Like in an engineering program, how many credits would you allocate if the students are allowed to take courses from, let us say, arts and humanities? So this is an issue, but NEP is very strong on that integration of liberal arts and humanities. Then multiple entry exit. This is another critical aspect. Notice that this is different from a temporary 1-year break that certain universities allow. Even today, many autonomous institutes and some universities permit a temporary break for 1 year, perhaps after 3rd year, where the students can explore their entrepreneurial spirits or some other ideas, but then they have to come back and complete the degree, then only they will get the degree. That is only a temporary break. What NEP visualizes is that actually the student leaves, exits the program, and exits the program with something in hand, some kind of a certificate, whether it is a diploma or a graduate degree or whatever it is. If a student leaves after 2nd year, after 3rd year, there is something in the hand to show that the student has completed 2 years, and the student exits the program, and the student may or may not come back and join the program. So this is different from the temporary break. Again, why I'm saying is that temporary break itself is a very progressive step. We need to certainly appreciate that, but that should not be thought of as the whole of NEP. Okay. So one should be very clear where NEP, what it says, and then what we are trying to do. Okay. Then global citizenship education, this is what it says. This would require significant innovations in curriculum design. When shortly I'll get to the professional education, then we'll spend just a couple of minutes on this issue of curriculum design. And in a later session, there is a full session devoted to curriculum design. So perhaps there things could be discussed in greater detail. The kind of options that they're giving is in a UG program of 3 to 4 year durations. As we mentioned, they can leave at any time. So a certificate perhaps after 1 year, a diploma after 2 years, a bachelor's degree after 3 years, and a multidisciplinary bachelor's degree after the full 4 years. That means at any time the student exits, there is something in the hands of the student, some kind of certificate showing that the student has gone through that many number of credits or so many courses the student has done. And then, of course, the academic bank of credits, so where you can accumulate credits from different institutes. And this may also have the 4-year program leading to a degree with research focus. So that also is being envisaged. Then PG, again, they have given several kind of options with research focus and integrated program. Then PhD, MPhil, of course, they are saying they will discontinue. But the basic idea is that the programs are becoming very, very flexible, and they permit a lot of integration and trust movements. And they're envisioning multidisciplinary educational and research universities or MERUs, and the government says it will set them up. We'll see what has to be, what will come out of this idea. Then research focus would be promoted. So this is very broadly about the higher education. Within that, the holistic and multidisciplinary education. In the same context, let us see what it means in terms of engineering programs. So there is a professional education. Looking ahead at part 3, it comes in part 3, but we just look ahead at that. The professional education would mean agriculture, legal, health sciences, as well as technical programs. All this would go into the professional education. Now, what NEP essentially says is that in all these programs, professional education programs, including, of course, engineering and technology program, there is one component which is the discipline oriented. Like if you are an electronics and communication engineering, a part of the curriculum does deal with electronics and communication engineering. So that specific discipline, that is one part of the curriculum. Then there is another part which is concerned with the practice of the profession. Right now also, the if you see the program outcomes which are there in the NBA, the 12 program outcomes do talk of these issues of professional practice, like professional ethics, professional communication, project management, finance. These are all there in the present accreditation process also. So they are concerned with the practice of the profession. So a part of the curriculum still has to deal with the practice. Then there is a third part which deals with the ethics and importance of public purpose. Once again, this is there even in the present framework, but here they have made it very explicit. Like even in the present accreditation framework, the engineer and society or sustainable kind of solutions, that is environment and technology. These are all related to this. So the ethics and importance of public purpose, that is how they envisage in the education. So they say engineering education cannot be pursued in isolation anymore. So they should not take place in the isolation of one specialty. It must be seen in the context of the general society. And all professional higher education institutions must become institutions offering holistic and multidisciplinary education by 2030. That is what it is saying. It's just about 8 years, which is really very, very challenging. We'll have to see how it takes up. Then within this professional education, if you look at the technical education, degree and diploma programs in engineering, technology, management, architecture, town planning, pharmacy, hotel management, catering technology, essentially all those programs which are coming right now under AICTE, if you see. Now, all these come under the technical education. Now, what they are saying is that within this, India must take a lead in preparing professionals in the cutting edge areas. So specifically, NEP mentions the emerging areas like artificial intelligence, genomic studies, nanotechnology, neuroscience. This is one of the areas where a lot of blend is happening between biology and engineering. Many universities are now proposing new centers of study in this area. And they have very important applications to health, environment, and sustainable living. So these must be woven into undergraduate education for enhancing the employability of the youth. That is what the NEP suggests, which again means we should have a real look at the way we are really designing the curricula for the engineering programs. Then essentially the implication is technical education must focus on opportunities to engage deeply with other disciplines. That is what this means. So technical education will also aim to be offered within multidisciplinary educational institutions. That is what it says by 2030. But there are certain key challenges. First is credit load and distribution across curricular components. Now, as it is, we are saying that the credit load should not be too heavy. 160 credits over 4 years is the current standard, but there is certain thinking that even that is slightly heavy. So within that credit load, how do we distribute the credits across the different components, across the professional core, professional elective, and the foundational courses, and then the arts and humanities and other sciences courses, then courses related to the practice, courses related to the public. So how do we do this real distribution of these loads? Then comes an extremely important concept that if a student is allowed to exit the program, say after 2 years, then what will the student do? Again, this was touched upon by Professor Mantasar also. Unless the student comes out with certain demonstrable program outcomes, knowledge, skills, attitudes, which permit the student to engage himself or herself in certain productive activity, it would not be of any use exiting the program after 2 years. Presently, the curriculum is linear in the sense that we spend first 2 years on foundational courses where the basics of mathematics, science and engineering are taught. Then gradually they get into the professional courses. Then much later only they become really employable. So basically the present kind of a curriculum is a kind of a linear kind of sequential model where really the student exits after 2 years. Practically the student has no potential for getting employed. So you need to have a relook at the curriculum. Of course, there can be several ways of relooking at the curriculum, but essentially it must be some kind of an iterative and incremental curricular model where we have to define the exit program outcomes at the end of first year, at the end of second year, at the end of third year, then finally at the end of the fourth year. Then how do we design the course structures in such a way that these demonstrable program outcomes are realized by the students at the end of first year, second year, third year kind of a thing. So this would be a big challenge designing a curricula like this. And certainly in the later session on the curriculum design, you could discuss on all these implications, how to really look at this curriculum. But one thing is certain that the sequential model that we are employing today would make it very difficult to implement NEP 2020. Then, of course, the challenge is the resources, the human resources as well as the physical resources. How do we create? And if it has to be a multidisciplinary education institution, how do we turn the unitary institutions that we have today into multidisciplinary ones? The options, implementation options are several. This could become a university with really multiple schools, or it could form collaboration with the nearby institutes to form a cluster. There are several opportunities available. Again, they will be discussed in detail in the later sessions. Then, of course, regulations are there. Then in all this, student perceptions and viability is also very important. How do students perceive these programs? What kind of public perception exists regarding these programs? And would they be viable in terms of the numbers that get admitted? These all become real challenges. Like in some of the institutes where they try to offer the programs in the local language, the admissions were practically zero because of the student perception. So these things need to be really looked into very carefully. So these are some of the key challenges that we have. Sorry, I think some slide got goofed up. Okay. So that is specifically with respect to the engineering education. Then the another policy point is motivated, energized and capable faculty. This is the most important factor in the success of HEIs today, even today. And even in implementation of NEP, faculty will play the crucial role. Despite various initiatives introduced in the past several years, faculty motivation in terms of teaching, research and service in the HEIs remains somewhat lower than the desired level. There could be several reasons for this. That is the general perception. In fact, in a lighter vein, I would say that industry somehow seems to always feel that we faculty are to be blamed for everything wrong in the system. Yeah, that I'm saying in a lighter vein. Faculty bashing has become very fashionable these days. But essentially, there is some perception. There are several. Yeah, yes, please. Yes, please.
Sir, can you please keep your PPT presentation mode, sir?
Sorry.
Sir, it's okay, sir. It's okay. Sir.
Yeah, fine.
Please,
Yeah.
please. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I'll do that. Yeah. So there are several initiatives proposed under NEP. Good physical infrastructure. First, we need teachers need to find the environment conducive for good teaching. Then reasonable student to faculty ratio and teaching load. Now, this is easier said than done. We have seen that in several states, the teaching load in higher educational institutions is absolutely unimaginably bad. Really, we were shocked when we looked at those institutes with that kind of a teaching load, where is the time left for the teacher to come out with any innovation or creativity? And if that is so in the existing scenario, if we are looking at implementing NEP, which is a highly idealistic document, I guess that would be impossible. In some of the states like Kerala, there's phenomenal kind of unfair student-teacher ratio is there. So NEP does realize that, and it mentions that it will look into those issues. Then to the extent possible, no administrative interference, because that is one of the key factors in government and sponsored institutes, that frequent transfers can disrupt the life of the teacher, make the life of the teacher very difficult. So no transfers to the extent possible. Then academic autonomy for the faculty, again a very crucial component. Then incentives, rewards, and career growth opportunities, including leadership openings and necessary mentoring. Extremely idealistic, but at least if part of this could be implemented, at least as a faculty, I would feel very happy about it. Then there are, of course, challenges for the institutions. Recruiting and retaining quality faculty has always been a challenge for many higher education institutions, but this is critical for the success. So how to effectively utilize the proposed initiatives to reach desired quality standards, roadmap for reaching those desired quality standards, then always funding in the case of private higher education institutions. How do we solve that riddle? That is still not very well understood. There is an interesting proposal that leadership openings and necessary mentoring will be provided. That is essentially those teachers who have a academic administrative kind of a bent of mind would be identified, and they would be mentored to become leaders in the coming years. That is either role of administrators or principals or heads of departments, whatever you want to call. So they would like to provide some kind of training and mentoring for such teachers. So that is again another interesting proposal. But how do the institutes really implement these ideas needs to be looked into. Then the same continuing with more holistic and multidisciplinary education, integration of liberal arts we already have seen. And the next important point NEP mentions is catalyzing quality academic research. Again, there is one session devoted to the research itself. So there you could discuss more of these points. Research and knowledge creation are critical for the economic, intellectual, societal, environmental, and technological health and progress of a nation, particularly so in the present era of rapid changes. So we do need focused research, but how do we facilitate the quality research to be carried out in academic institutes? How do we create a good research ecosystem? These are the issues. So there are many concerns in the present system. How do we approach solution of these problems? That is what NEP tries to discuss. So the present pressing concerns of Indian society require high quality native interdisciplinary research. The research needs to focus on the problems which are specific to the Indian society. So for that, a specific policy initiative needs to be taken, and higher education institutions have a crucial role to play in this area. The fact is that research and innovation investment in India is at the current time only 0.69% of the GDP, as compared to 2.8% in USA, 4.3% in Israel, and 4.2% in South Korea. You can see the kind of difference that exists. So the NEP does speak of substantially increasing the expenditure from the government side on promoting research. So the policy envisions a comprehensive approach to transforming the quality and quantity of research in India. So it proposes establishment of a national research foundation, and other traditional funding agencies like DST or ISRO, they continue to fund, but NRF will coordinate all these things. Again, there are many challenges for the higher education institutions. We need to discuss these, how to really face these things and how to solve, both public and private. What policy reforms are required to promote quality research? with the current teaching loads and non-academic loads that the faculty have, can we really realize the vision of having quality research? Can we have research intensive institutes where the faculty load distributions are different? So these are the issues that we need to discuss. How to establish and nurture a quality research ecosystem and how to get faculty engaged in such research. How to facilitate interdisciplinary research of high quality. As exists today, we have highly partitioned silos. Practically, there is no interaction within the departments of one single institute. A mechanical engineering hardly interacts with computer science and engineering. But how do we break down these silos and how do we make interdisciplinary research possible? And how do we create an ecosystem which encourages both students and faculty to engage in interdisciplinary work? These are the issues. Then how to leverage the opportunities to be provided by NRF, the National Research Foundation. These things we need to address. Then if you look at the other key areas of focus, we have professional education, adult education and lifelong learning. Already we touched on professional education, which actually comes in part 3. Then adult education and lifelong learning. Then promotion of Indian languages, arts and culture. This is only one policy point. The reason again I'm mentioning is that setting up a school of Indian knowledge studies or offering a program in a local language, that is one policy point. That's not the whole of NEP, but it does certainly speak of that. Then technology use and integration. There is a huge focus given on the technology use and integration. How do we leverage the technology? How do we make it affordable? That is one issue. Then accessible to all, that is another issue. As the recent pandemic has shown, there is considerable divide, digital divide that exists today. We do not have appropriate connectivity in several rural areas. There are power disruptions and there are issues of device costs and device maintenance, all these things coming up. How do we really leverage the technology if we have to implement the NEP? The policy is extremely good in the sense that it recognizes all these issues and it lists them and suggests ways of overcoming them. But when it comes to implementation, we have to see what are the issues. Then online and digital education, that also it focuses. Here again, the recent pandemic has shown us that you need a different pedagogy when we go to online education. A teacher who is excellent in the traditional classroom setting does not necessarily become a good teacher in an online setting, because in an online, the pedagogy needs to be different. How do we train the teachers with the online pedagogy? And online evaluation is much more difficult. Again, the last 2 years have revealed the kind of challenges that we face when we do online assessment, the kind of questions that can be set in a question paper, the issues with respect to the what we can say is unethical practices of students while taking up the examinations. How do we tackle them? And then how do we take care of the laboratory work in engineering education in particular? This really has been very challenging for the engineering institutes in the last 2 years because everything cannot be done online. So how do we take care of these issues of assessing laboratory performance? All these things come up when we are talking of online and digital education. What kind of innovations are required in assessment and evaluation? It talks of all these issues in leveraging technology. So we need to really look into these issues. Then for this, it proposes several key initiatives. Pilot studies for online education. This is very important because many of us are really not very clear on what works and what doesn't work. There are certain number of empirical studies available, but they are all in foreign context. Within the Indian context, how a particular policy is working, we do not have empirical studies. That is, implement the policy on a pilot scale in an education institution, get the feedback, get the opinion of the stakeholders, and then assess what is working, what is not working. These kind of studies we do not have many. In fact, even the published literature does not talk much about the experience in Indian education systems. So we need pilot studies for online education, and we need to promote those which work, and for the technologies and method pedagogies which do not work, we need to identify what are the weaknesses and then how to overcome them. Then creating the digital infrastructure, then online teaching platforms and tools. Yes, today we have definitely NPTEL, Swayam, Diksha, all these platforms are available, but we need to make them more easily accessible. And also we need to increase the reach of these platforms and ease of access, and also public awareness. So we need to increase that. Again, when it comes to tools, we need to understand the limitations of the tools, and then issues like protection, security, all these need to be addressed. Then content creation, a big challenge today, particularly if we are thinking of creating the content in the local languages, it becomes a big challenge. Yes, artificial intelligence and machine learning tools are being used to create a certain amount of translation automatically, machine translation, but still content creation is a huge challenge. How to create an appropriate digital repository, what are the copyright issues, and how do we disseminate this information. Like Digital Library of India initiative faced a lot of problems with the copyright issues earlier. Then they had to close it down for several years, and now again it's coming up. But we need to look into all these issues. Then, as I mentioned, addressing the digital divide. This is both with respect to the device cost, accessibility, as well as the connectivity. Connectivity is a big issue, and even power, electrical power is a big issue in India. So how do we address all these things? Then virtual labs and their effectiveness, and training and incentives for teachers. As I mentioned, this is again extremely important, online pedagogy and assessment and evaluation. So blended models of learning, to the extent possible, they need to promote this. Here again, we need to understand what are the best pedagogies to be used, and what are the limitations of the some of these tools we need to understand. Then, of course, in all this, we need to lay down new standards. If we are offering it in blended mode or purely online mode, what kind of standards hold good? If you are offering an online course, how do we evaluate this? How do we set quality standards? We need to set down certain norms. So the NEP does talk of all these things. That is the beauty of NEP. Quite a comprehensive document. And I think I'm running out. I think I'll close down, madam. Another 2 minutes, I'll complete it.
Yes,
When
sir.
making it happen, strengthening Central Advisory Board of Education, which is supposed to really look at this at the national level. Then financing, as I mentioned, this is really a very sticky issue. Still, in my mind, it's not very clear. How do we really solve this issue? Affordable and quality education for all. And then, of course, some implementation points are discussed. There are 3 policy points here. So public investment in education sector, center and states, as Sir also mentioned, it must reach 66% of the GDP from the current levels of about 4.5%. This is slightly better than what it was earlier, but still it's much lesser than what is required, it says. But for private institutes, how do we really solve this issue of finance? It does mention opportunities for higher cost recovery. Private institutes really would be looking at this without affecting the needy or deserving sections will also be explored. That's what NEP says. But how we solve this is a tricky issue. Then education is a concurrent subject. So both center and states need to work together. In fact, this has been one of the initial obstacles in NEP. Certain states have submitted written objections to the NEP, saying that it violates the autonomy of the states and things like that. But they need to come together and work on that. So that also is mentioned. Fortunately, today, most of the country is aligned towards NEP 2020. And then detailed action plans need to be formulated. So for a higher education institution, it needs to work out its own detailed action plan, strategize, prioritize the policy points, and come out with a phased implementation plan. It needs that. So to conclude, education is critical for the progress of the nation. NEP 2020 proposes several significant policy changes to the entire education system. As I mentioned, early childhood education, all the way up to the research. Implementation challenges are substantial. While the policy document looks very idealistic and highly comprehensive, the implementation challenges are really substantial. All the stakeholders need to have a relook at all these issues, and many other key areas of focus are discussed in NEP 2020. It's the most important policy initiative now in force. So it would be really worth our while to go through the entire document in detail. A very complex scenario ahead indeed for all of us, particularly the faculty in engineering institutes. So we need to really look into the NEP issues very, very carefully. So I think with that, I'll close. I think I'll close with that. And if you have any questions, I would be happy to answer that.
Thank you for your presentation, sir. Dear participants, if any query, please raise your hand.
Where do I get this? Yeah, stop sharing.
NEP 2020.
Sir, yeah. Any questions? Either you can type in the chat box or you can answer question.
Sir, how to implement NEP 2020 in autonomous institutions especially? So is it right from starting of the curriculum to developing the entrepreneurs also, including that one, like industry interaction, which is very important in the present state of scenario?
Yes, sir. First thing I would say is that the institute has to do certain brainstorming to come out with a phase-wise implementation plan, because we cannot really have any reasonable way of implementing the entire document of NEP in a very short time. We need to prioritize, as I mentioned, the policy points. Which are the issues which you would like to take up first? So we need to prioritize that. And then we need to have some kind of a time frame. For example, if you are looking at a multidisciplinary district education, in the beginning, can we revise our regulations so that the students can do projects across the departments? Can we permit the students to form a team, one from mechanical, one from electrical, one from computer science, one from electronics, to form a team and do a final year project? Many of the present institutes do not permit that. First, at least can we permit that? This can be done within 1 year time frame. Then can we have a mechanism whereby there is a certain kind of credit given for entrepreneur work? Can we have a mechanism whereby there can be interaction with nearby institutes? Then can we have a mechanism whereby industry can come to our institute and set up its own research and development center? They work in our institute. They provide opportunities for our students to work there, and they can become adjunct faculty of the institute. And they must be recognized as valid faculty. Can we permit that in autonomous institute? So we need to look into these issues in a phased manner. So you have to see, based on your local constraints, what would be your priority list of the policy points. So based on that, you need to go ahead in a phased manner in implementing the NEP. Then, of course, curriculum design. Certainly, you need to look at that. Then in the curriculum design, how do we create a curriculum which permits the students to become employable even if they exit after the second year, after the third year? What kind of a skill sets can you envision for the students? So that perhaps in the later session, again, you can discuss that. So you need to make first study the whole document, look into all the policy points, then make a priority list for your own institute. This is the sequence in which you would implement the NEP. That's how you should go about it, sir. I hope it answers your question.
Yeah, thank you, sir, for your detailed clarification. It clears our doubts to maximum extent, and we will go through that document so that we will enlighten ourselves also, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, great. That would be wonderful.
Any more queries? Just a second, sir. Two more queries are there.
Yeah, please, please.
Sir, Dr. Gagandeep Arora.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, please ask the question. You can unmute yourself.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Yeah, tell me, sir.
Yeah. Just small question, sir. The policy which has been framed has suggested two new agencies like PARAG and NTA for
Yeah.
performing a national level test. Do you
Correct.
think that will be an overburden to the student who is appearing in 10th or 12th standard? Because they have never scrapped the previous examination system. They have added one more examination system at national level.
The idea is that this national testing agency would make many of the other tests obsolete, and it would be a kind of a supervising agency at the national level. It will not be one additional creating a burden, but it will be an overarching body. That is the idea. But we have to see how it will really get implemented. But certainly it will not be an additional burden as per the policy document, at least. So that is what they are envisioning. So I hope that really will happen and it will not become an additional burden for the students. Okay, that's what I'm hoping. But the policy document is clear about it.
Going to wind it up.
Pardon?
That means the other entrance exam or something they are going to scrap and this exam will come into limelight.
Either that or the NTA will become a kind of overarching body for all the others. That means it will become a top level supervisory kind of a regulatory body for that. But it will not be one more level of testing. That is what the NEP says.
Right, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. You asked another question, sir. Did you put one more apart from NTA?
No, sir. This was the question.
Yeah, one. Yeah.
Sir, any more questions? So you have a question?
Mr. Yashpal.
Yeah, Mr. Ashpal, you can unmute yourself and please ask your question.
Mr. Yashpal.
Hello, good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Sir, it is an excellent and enlightening lecture, sir. And I have a question to you regarding one point that you said that the quality teacher should be recruited and retained. At the time of recruitment, we find out whether the teacher is quality or not. Once it is he or she selected, I think they should not be allowed to leave or they should not be removed very soon, so that we can. It will be difficult for the recruiter as well as the employee to dissociate themselves from the institution. That is how we can have career growth for the employees as well as for the institution.
Yes, sir, I agree. But faculty retention, as all of us know, is a very tricky issue. See, a faculty has to be retained not by legislation. This is my personal opinion, but because the faculty enjoys working in the institute. Always I believe that a faculty who is happy and who is really enjoying the working environment would be a great asset to the institute. But a faculty who is disgruntled, who is unhappy with the working environment, who wants to leave but is forced to stay there by regulation, is actually a liability for the institute. That is how I always believed. So it is the responsibility of for us to create an environment which is exciting for the teacher, as well as it is an opportunity for the student teacher to grow. If you create such an environment and if you nurture the faculty, why would they leave? They would happily work here and continue. And in the aided or government institutes, the transfer mechanism has been used in a rather undesirable way many times. Now the NEP clearly says that those undesirable influences would be eliminated so that the teachers can work more in peace and try to really contribute to the growth of the knowledge of the students rather than worry about these kind of issues. As far as private institutes are concerned, it is the working environment which motivates the faculty to contribute their best. So that is how I would see. So I would think that retaining the quality faculty should happen because it's exciting for the faculty to work in the environment. If you retain someone by legislation, it doesn't help much, sir. Of course, you could differ in the opinion. This is a very tricky issue. But generally, my feeling is that a faculty who is happy, who is excited to interact with the students, a faculty who finds growth opportunities, a faculty happy with the job would contribute greatly to the growth of the academics in the institute rather than a kind of someone retained by force. That's how I would feel. In fact, teaching should be a joy for the teacher, not a punishment. And it's necessary to create such an environment in the institute. That's how I would see it, sir. I hope that I answered your question.
Any more participants for queries? I think no more, sir.
Yeah, thank you very much for all of your attention and questions.
Sir, let me give vote of thanks, sir.
Yeah, before that, before you go only, I would like to really thank you and all of the participants, and I wish all the participants the very best in trying to realize this NEP, because for faculty, this is a crucial time. So I wish all the very best to all of you. Thank you, ma'am, for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you, sir. Each slide of yours demonstrate prudence and insight, which will definitely add value to teaching fraternity. Thank you, sir, for highlighting on the importance of equity in education being the fundamental principle of NEP 2020, which is to be realized on tapping into the potential of technology. We all appreciate for elucidating the overall theme of NEP in such a lucid way. The NEP indeed tries to meet the exit demands of the new India through teacher training, infrastructure, development, collaboration among research fraternity. So this is our participants got enlightened on these issues with respect to your presentation, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for your presence here, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. All the best to all of you again.
Thank you, sir.
I'll be leaving now, madam.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good afternoon, sir. Vishnu, sir. Dear participants, please be online. Other session speaker, Dr. Vishwanatha Saru, is going to join in another couple of minutes. Vishnu, sir. Good afternoon, sir.
Lower hand master.
Good afternoon, madam.
Good afternoon, sir. Yes, sir. I'm extremely happy to invite and introduce Dr. S. Vishwanath Raju, sir, for this session. Let me introduce Vishwanath Raju, sir. He is a professor of Department of Computer Science and Engineering, has 25 years of experience in teaching, research and administration. From December 2016 to July 2021, he served as Vice Principal, JNTH College of Engineering, Jagatjal. He has served as Director MCA, GRIET from June 2008 to July 2010. From April 2011 to April 2015, he served as Head of the Department of CSC, JNTH College of Engineering, Jagatjal. He obtained MTech from JNTU Hyderabad and PhD from Acharya Nagarjuna University, Guntur. He is certified CMI in Educational Leadership and Program Management, sponsored by MHRD, AICTE and UKRI Dudley College, London. He has been honored with State Best Teacher Award 2020 from the Government of Telangana, Best Computer Science Engineering Award from ISTE, Andhra Pradesh for the year 2014, Certification of Appreciation Award in Independence Day celebrations from Honorable District Collector Jagatjal in 2019, and Best Citizen of India, etc. His research interests include programming methodology, machine learning, IoT, algorithms, biometrics, and quality in higher education are globally recognized. He filed 10 Indian patents deriving from his research and relevant to educational institutes. His research contributions are not only confined to his subject area, but also extend to other related domains arising out of the new education system, assessment and accreditation, and other impact on Indian higher education. To add impetus to his academic credentials, he has undergone training as well as speaker for the Quality Improvement in Education at NIPPR, OSA 2012 World Summit on Accreditation 2012, OSA 2014, TCS, Infosys, NBA and NAC. He guided 10 PhDs and 5 PhD scholars pursuing. He is life member of ISTE, IETE, CSI, IACSIT and Fellow of Institution of Engineers, India. He has 120 plus research publications in reputed international national journals, which are Scopus, SCI and Springer, etc. and conferences. He has authored 4 books, 11 book chapters and 2 ACT sponsored research projects and 1 TechQ project and 1 fellowship from TS and ST. He has been a member of several governmental committees like JNTH, ACTE, NBA, NAC, etc. He delivered more than 110 plus invited talks, expert lecturers and keynote addresses on various technical topics such as outcome-based education, NBA, NAC accreditation process in the country and outside country. He has organized several workshops, seminars, tutorials and conferences. He has been to Singapore and Taiwan and interacted with several academicians and researchers. So this is the profile of Dr. S. Vishwanath, sir. He is the session speaker now. Sir, over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, madam, for briefing my profile.
Yes,
and thank you very much for the Vardhaman institution for giving an opportunity to share my knowledge and regarding NEP 2020.
It's our pleasure, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Please, sir.
So please, my PPT is visible, madam?
It is visible, sir. Yes, sir. It is visible, sir.
Oh, slide is full slide?
Yes, sir. It is in presentation mode, sir.
Yeah. So very good afternoon to you all. In today, I'll talk about effective implementation of National Education Policy 2020. This is very broad area. In this, I have selected few topics. Those are the topics I'll be going to show you. These are the topics I'll be going to talk in today's session. The first one is the key principles of NEP 2020. The second is a multiple entry and multiple exit option, which is playing the key role in the NEP 2020. And the next, if I want to implement the multiple entry exit option, which is required, that is what Academic Bank of Credit system. And again, with respect to this, I need
to understand what is the curriculum and how to design the curriculum for the implementation of multiple entry, multiple exit options. And at the end of the session, I'll be give the little information regarding the school education, which is the most important because of you all might be having the children. So you must understand this is the system, what the system is going to implement from the next academic year. So these are the topics I'll be going to talk in this session. The first key principle is the diversity and local context in all curriculum, pedagogy and policy. What is meant by diversity is that respecting individual differences. Local context means you see in the surrounding of our educational institution, what the problems are there. You need to collect all the problems surrounding of our education institution. With respect to their problems, I must design at least one course, which could be very helpful to the local community. So that is what missing in the present curriculum. We are always looking global. But what about the local? So I need to gather the information in local area, what the issues are there with respect to those issues, how to be designed at least one curriculum that has to be included in the curriculum. Or if the issues are there, for those issues, you need to conduct the pedagogical things. So this is what you must be included in the education system and policy also. The next point is equity and inclusion. Equity means we must give the equality to all the stakeholders, either easily financially weak or maybe any other kind of aspect. And inclusion means you see that experiencing sense of belonging and other feeling value. So we must invite the suggestions, and those suggestions I have to be analyze it and evaluate it, and finally whether should I consider or not for the implementation of so and so program curriculum. The next key principle is community participation. As of now, we have a one system, that is what NSS activity. So NSS activity means always we are focusing on the external activities, but my suggestion is as part of the curriculum, you want to make it. And suppose you see that mechanical students are there, how they can participate in the community means, so they want to visit the agriculture sector there, what are the issues they do have with respect to their issues, how when we find the best solutions for their issues, that is what we have to be identified in our program. That is what mechanical engineering. Like you see that we need to encourage the students to participate in a community, not simply to go and see the people and celebrate certain things. With respect to our curriculum, what we need to do with respect to their problem, we try to find the solution. So that is the actual process of the community participation. The next key principle is technology. I think we are very familiar about a technology, what the role of technology in this pandemic situation. You know that in the last 3-4 years, it is played the key role in the process of the examination, in the process of assessment, in the process of teaching, in the process of any other aspect. So that where to use, where not to use, that is also most important in the education system. Use of technology in teaching and learning, removing language barriers. So this is also one added advantage. Suppose where the student is coming from the very rural background or maybe regional language. In that case, if I can install the language technology, the technology can be translated from one language to another language. That is also one of the advantages of the technology. And for Divanga student, the student should not be able to attend all the classes or maybe all the laboratories. In that case, we can develop a virtual classrooms or maybe virtual laboratories. By that, they can easy to understand, easy to analyze, easy to evaluate, and finally they can easy to perform the examination. Open distance learning and in educational planning and management. So this is what the role of the technology in coming years. The next key principle is conceptual understanding. This is what I have found in the education system, but everyone have the knowledge and skill. But when we go inside of the concept, they could not able to give much information about the particular concept. That is what missing in the education system. What is meant by conceptual understanding or problem solving skills? Conceptual understanding rather than rote learning and learning for the exam orientation. So what we are doing in the classroom, we are focusing on the syllabus and then we are making them to perform very well in the examination. So that is what we are focusing. So that has to be changed. How can I change? Let us see here is what. Suppose if I have a real world situation or maybe real world problem, or maybe I have a one issue. That is the issue how to solve. How to solve the issue. That is the most important. Okay. How can I solve? First, define the problem. So I must understand the problem. What is the problem? Once if I understand the problem, if I could not able to understand, then I have to be discussed with maybe similar area domain people, or maybe conduct the brainstorming sessions for finding the right solution. For the same problem, you might be having n number of solutions. In n number of solutions, again, which is the best solution? That is what you need to pick, and that solution you have to be use it for the implementation of the your problem. Once if you implement that, then you need to test the solution. So what the accuracy of the your method, and if it is giving the more than desired accuracy, then it could not be, I think it is sufficient. Otherwise, if it is not giving more than required accuracy, then what should I do? Review the results, and again you have to go back. This is reiterative process. This is the way we need to solve the problem. Whatever the problem, whether the problem is very small or a medium or a high level, but every problem should teach like this. First, define the problem, and next, conduct the brainstorming sessions on finding the relevant solutions. And again, in the relevant solutions, why should I select the X solution rather than other solutions? That is what we have to be justified with the proper information. Once if I select, that is what I have to be implement. Once if I implement, then I have to review the results. With respect to the results, whether the result is more than desired expectation or not. If it is a desired expectation, then you can stop. Otherwise, continue. The next key principle is unique capabilities. Unique capabilities, recognizing, identifying them in each student. You know, we have a system in our education institution, that is what student mentoring system. What is the purpose of student mentoring system? To identify the unique capabilities of individual student. Why should I identify the individual student capabilities? By identifying the individual student capabilities, I can guide them as per their interest. That is the basic purpose of the student mentoring system. The conceptual understanding, this is what we discussed in this previous slide, rather than rote learning and focusing on the exam orientation. So let us take example of this. First one is, for example, I want to teach one concept, that is what y equal to mx plus c, for example, y equal to mx plus c. Or maybe you see that another problem is there. I want to calculate the total fare of the taxi. I want to travel from my place to another place. So for that, I need to calculate the total fare. How can I calculate the total fare? Generally, we follow the certain random procedure. But that is what real world situation. For that, how can I apply my knowledge or my skill set, which I studied in my education system? That is what I'm going to share you in the coming. So first one, let us take a conceptual understanding. I learned something new about maths today. So today I learned the concept is y equal to mx plus c. So that is what. And again, what I need to do, immediately I have to do the practice. If I do the practice, there is a possibility of the real understanding and also easy to remember. The practice makes man perfect. That is what we heard. So in the similar way, once if I understand the concept, immediately I have to implement it, or I have to do the practically. I learn and or practice a more efficient way to do maths, and I understand why it works. So now I have a practical knowledge on the y equal to mx plus c. Now immediately, why should I learn? Why should I learn this concept? Where should I use this concept? That is the most important. Learning the concept is not important. Once if I learn the concept, where I can use it. So that is the most important in the engineering education. So now I have the knowledge about the y equal to mx plus c. Now I have to identify the applications. So where I can use my y equal to mx plus c. So let us see example of this. The example one is, suppose you take a car. Suppose you take a car for rent. They have a fixed charge of 150 plus 50 for every hour. So this is the condition they have. With respect to this information, now I want to calculate the total rent of the car. So that is what you see that. Then the equation as y equal to 50 multiplied t plus 150. You know that which I learned in my class, that is what a knowledge y equal to mx plus c. My problem is I want to calculate the total fare of the car. So for that, which is the right formula, that is what I have to be identified. I have to be use it. which is the right formula for solving up my issue y equal to mx plus c. Y equal to 50 means you know that for every hour 50 rupees. The t indicates the number of hours plus there is a one constant y equal to mx plus c. C is a constant. That constant is 150. So now you see that how I can use the y equal to mx plus c formula for the calculation of the total fare of the my hire with car. You see that this is the methodology we need to introduce in the classroom. Next, let us see another example. Suppose you are driving a car at the speed of 60 kilometers. Now we want to calculate the total price of the, okay, that is what real world situation. What is the real world situation? Suppose you are driving a car at the speed of the 60 km per hour. Now I want to calculate the total fare for the 60 hours or maybe 40 hours or 30 hours. In that case, how to use my knowledge, which I studied in my education, that which is a formula I have in my education, that is y equal to mx plus c. Now you see that I'm using the y plus c. Distance covered by you after t hours of driving is y equal to 60 multiplied t, but plus c. C is a constant. Constant means can be any value with respect to the situation, with respect to the problem. That is the value you need to select. Okay, y equal to 60 multiplied t. So by this formula, I can easily to calculate the total fare of the car. Another example. Suppose if you want to make an automation of the kitchen. In the kitchen, let us say, for example, you want to make an automation of the kitchen. So when we want to make an automation of the kitchen, in that there are various varieties of the curries we need to prepare it. Let us take an example of the one simple curry, that is what chicken curry. When I want to prepare the chicken curry, this is what my real world situation. Which is a real world situation? I want to prepare the chicken curry. So for this, what are the how to identify the right formula or right concept for solving of my issue? What is my issue? Chicken curry. So what I studied in my education, y equal to mx plus c. There are two different methods are there. One is a simple regression, other one is multiple regression is there. So now I need to choose a simple regression or a multiple regression. So let us see in this problem, I required minimum more than one features are required. When we require more than one feature, then I have to be select multiple regression. So chicken curry equal to y equal to w1 multiply x1. So what it mean by x1? X1 is a feature 1, x2 is a feature 2, and so on. X1, x2, x3, and so on. Xn are ingredients. Suppose if I want to prepare the chicken curry, what are the ingredients are required? Maybe chicken, salt, maybe pepper, etc., etc. So these are the indicating by the what about the variables x1, x2, x3, xn. And also again, each and every ingredient I have to take a little quantity. That quantity should be a finite. So that is representing by w1 and so on wn. So this is what you see that he see. Y equal to w1 multiply x1 plus w2 multiply x2 plus and so on wn xn. And plus b. You see that generally at the end of the curry, what we used to do as a mother, they used to test it with a sample quantity. Once if there is any deviation, that is what they will be fulfilled by adding some more flavor. So that is what B. So like I have to be applied, which I studied in my education for solving of real world situation. Which is the real world situation? Chicken curry preparation. So W1, W2 and so on. Wn are weights of respective ingredients. X1, X2 and so on. Xn are ingredients. B is a flavor. So like this we need to teach in the classroom. Once if I teach a one concept, I must teach it with a definition, and then I have to be apply the certain kind of practice, and then I have to be identify what are the possible applications to the respective concept, and at least one or two applications I have to be solve it. Let us take an example. So in the last pandemic situation, we were all worrying about the COVID. You see that let us see an example is how to overcome that situation, how to avoid the fear also. That is what I'm going to share you in this slide. What causes fatigue or drowsiness or headaches? You see, in the pandemic situation, we were all worrying about this. When we had a certain maybe fever or maybe certain drowsiness, immediately we had a certain doubts in our mind. Oh, it could be a possibility of the COVID. Why should we worry? That could not be COVID. Maybe certain times there is a seasonal issues also there. There could be possibility of the environmental changes issues also. So why not to think like that? So you think in a different dimension. What we studied in education, why not apply that education, knowledge and skill for finding the right solution or finding the root cause for this issue? What are the issues? You see that. And what are the things are required? You see that lifestyle factors, physical health conditions, mental health issues. These are the three parameters I think you are very familiar. So which is playing the key role? That is what you need to identify when we have this is the issue. Not to run to the hospital, not run to the something. You must analyze yourself. You have a self-intelligence. Why do you want to depend on the secondary intelligence? So everyone have the self-intelligence. Everyone have a knowledge and skill. So they can easy to analyze, they can easy to evaluate, they can easy to identify the root cause for this issue. So that is missing in the society. Everyone trying to take a help from others only. Why not apply by their knowledge? So this is what. So let us see here is, I have to be checked what is the reason for this. So in the last 15 days or maybe 7 days, am I having the enough sleep or not? So on every day, minimum is 7 to 8 hours. Sound sleep is the most important for the human body with respect to the age. So this is what you need to consider the information, first parameter. Am I having the enough sleep in the last 15 days or not? On average, 7 hours. Let us take it. The next point is, am I taking the right fuel or not? Not enough fuel. Maybe you may be taking extra outside, but that may be good or not. That you have to be you have to be analyzed with respect to your ability. So not enough fuel means, or maybe am I taking the junk food or am I taking the other food? Am I taking the minimum quantity or not? That is what you have to be analyzed. Who knows that? You only knows that. How the doctor knows whether you are taking the enough food or not? So that is not possible by the second person. So you should think, you should analyze, you should evaluate. The next parameter is what? Depression causes sadness and anxiety. Am I having any sadness? Am I having any anxiety issues? So that is what is the reason for that? You think, you analyze, you evaluate it. The next one is lack of physical activity. So am I having any physical activity or not? So that is what you have to be considered. And the next, water deficiency. See, with respect to the body strength, they need to maintain the minimum is 4 to 6 liter water in every day. So that is the more helping to the human body. So how it is helping for the human body means, you know that in the body, what is the information is available in the neuron system, that is only is electricity and chemical. How it is possible, how to generate the electricity, how to generate the chemical. You see that if not there any sufficient water, then it could be very difficult. So that is what my intention. Okay. Next, any other issues, conflicts. So just you take like this several attributes and then you analyze it, you evaluate it, which is a very weak. Then you need to focus on that. Then definitely it could be possible to come out from this situation. Which situation? Either drowsiness or headache or fatigue. You see that. So this you need to find out the root cause, please, for your issue, not to run to the hospital. This is my sincere suggestion. Generally, I used to do. Even you see that if you go for any tour, after coming back, you may be having some drowsiness or headache or fatigue, etc., etc. What was the reason? Just to identify, to analyze it, to evaluate it. Lack of the sleep, lack of the rest, lack of the maybe something, quality food. So these are the things may be required. So from that day, you need to concentrate on the respective attribute. Next, critical thinking and creativity to encourage logical decision making and innovation. So we are talking about the problem solving. So if I want to solve the problem, then what I require? These two are very important. One is the critical thinking, other one is the creativity. Critical thinking, how it is playing the key role? That means you see that I must understand the existing system. In the existing system, what are the deficiencies or what are the weaknesses are there? If I know, then I can focus on the creativity. Without knowing the existing system weaknesses, how I can focus on the creativity. So that you must understand the existing system, or you must understand the environment, you must understand the problem, then you can able to concentrate on the creativity. So that is what you see that the critical thinking means you analyze the problem, you break down the problem or compare, categorize, list out or sequence or any ranking. So you see that without critical analysis, I should not able to make it a ranking of the students also. I should not able to make it the ranking of the instruments also. That is what you see that. Now creative thinking, imagine, invent, change, design, create. So the combination of the critical thinking and the creative thinking, that is called problem solving skills. That is called problem solving skills. So that means improve, design, refine, find, invent, criterion to combine. You see, when we look into the research thesis titles, so I think these are the nomenclatures we used to find out in the thesis titles. Improve, design, refine, find, invent, criteria to combine, something. So then this is what is the critical thinking and creative thinking. So you see that generally we are working in the higher education institutions. In the higher education, there are three different categories of students are there. One is a engineering student, the undergraduate students. Second one is postgraduate students. Third one is the research students. You see, when we are assigning the task to the undergraduate students, then what we need to do? We need to start with the critical thinking. We need to assign the existing system to them. And what we need to ask them, they need to go through the existing system and they need to able to find out what are the weaknesses are there. That is possible only by critical analysis only. Once they could able to find what are the weaknesses of in the existing system, then they can focus on the critical thinking, creative thinking. So that is the way we need to follow. Suppose if the PG students are there, for the PG students, they have to come with idea and they have to start with the creative thinking. Or if research scholar, they should start with the creative thinking. So let us take an example of imagine a painting. Suppose you want to do the painting for your building or maybe for your something. In that case, from where should I start? I should start with the creative thinking. Imagine a painting. So what kind of pattern you require? Imagine a painting. Once you imagine a painting, then plan the composition. Plan the composition. Once if I want to plan the composition, then I want to choose appropriate brushes for painting also. That is also most important. Choose the right brushes and also right colors also, right branding also. There also have to apply the little creativity and prepare the canvas. Once if I prepare the canvas, then sketch the painting. Once I sketch the painting, then by critical analysis, I have to evaluate how it is, whether it is good or not. If it is not good, you see that, then again you see that we have to apply the creative thinking. Where it is not good, that is what by critical analysis, and how to overcome that, that is what creative analysis or creative thinking. Once if I apply the creative thinking, then it is come out with the image, then I have to check it whether it is improved or not. If it is improved, then I have to complete the painting. Then that work I have to be present in front of the stakeholders, present the artwork. So this is the process of the problem solving. You see that these are the two skills are most important for solving a problem: critical thinking, creative thinking. Next point is multiple entry and exit system. This is playing the key role in the NEP 2020. So what is the purpose of this multiple entry, multiple exit system is student flexibility. As of now, in the present education system, student doesn't have any flexibility. As per the instructions given by the HOD or maybe institution head, they will be going. So that is not the right process in the education system. For that, the NEP has been introduced multiple entry and multiple exit system. Student flexibility means students to choose their academic path, leading to the award of certificate, diploma, and degree. You see that once the student has been taken the admission in the first year in the CSE department, he has to be complete only that. He has to complete in the only that respective program only, but no choice in the second year, no choice in the third year, no choice in the fourth year to move from the CSE to the ECE or ECE to mechanical or mechanical to CSE. That kind of flexibility not there. So as for the NEP 2020, I hope we will see that once the student is selecting with the admission, taken the admission in CSE, in the second year he can move from the CSE to electronics also. That could be flexibility will be there in the coming years. So award of certificate. Not only that, another flexibility also. Suppose the student want to come out from the after first year, then we must issue the certain certificate. As of now, what we are giving, he is a dropout student. That is not the right nomenclature. So that we must encourage the student once he completed first year, once he scored the minimum number of credits, then why don't you issue the certificate, appropriate certificate with respect to the number of credits. So that is what major strength of the NEP 2020. Certificate, a diploma and degree. Hence, multiple entry and exit system allows students to drop their course and resume it at a later stage as and when they desire or deem it worth pursuing. With the help of this system, you see that student can exit after first year and he can work for some amount of time. Once if he earns something, then again he can come back and take admission in the second year, and the first year credits it will be accumulated for the next year. So that is what the system is, I think, more helpful to the student. The student mobility. Student mobility means incoming or outgoing students within the country or across the border for education. You see, once if I take an admission in one institution, I must complete my degree in the same institution. That is what the rule presently we have. But as per the NEP 2020, there is a flexibility for the student. The student can move from one institute to another institute or from one country to another country as listed by the government of India. So that is what student mobility. So that means this is indicating that what nationalization and also internationalization student mobility. The professional courses, multiple entry or multiple exit options, you see that. Let us assume the degree is a 4 years program. So first, once a student has taken admission in first year, after completion of the first year, if he is having the sufficient number of credits, then he can take a exit option and then he can get the certificate. After first year, after taking the exit option, then again, after some amount of time, he can enjoy with his aim, and then again he can come back and take admission in the second year, so third year or second year, whatever it is, second year or third year. Okay, if he can complete the minimum number of credits in the second year, then he can get the certificate that is called diploma. After third year, he can get the that is called the advanced diploma. Once if he complete 4 years degree, then he will get the degree that is called 4 years bachelor degree. Like this, we have to be frame the curriculum. Now this is a system is very good, but very challenging task to all of us. So where the challenges are there, that is what I'll be going to share you in the coming slides. So this is what. So for the implementation of the multiple exit, multiple entry, multiple exit system, we required one additional transparency system. That additional transparency system is called academic bank of credits. This academic bank of credits already created by Ministry of Education and also UGC. So they are maintaining this is the system. So what is the importance of this system? What are the functions of this system? What are the objectives? That is what we'll be going to discuss in the coming slides. The virtual or digital storehouse. What is meant by academic bank of credit means this is virtual or digital storehouse that contains the information of the credits earned by an individual student throughout their learning journey. This is called virtual storehouse. What is the purpose of this virtual storehouse? This is the maintaining the data about a particular student, each and every individual regarding the credits, and multiple exits, multiple entries, multiple options for entering and leaving colleges or universities. So this is very helpful for the leaving from one institute and join in another institution, which is helping the academic bank of credit. Okay, the student can take a permission without taking the permission. He can move from the one institute to another institute by, okay, maybe request by submitting a request to the UGC or Ministry of Education. The ABC can be considered as an authentic reference to check the credit record of any student at any given point in time. So this is one like a banking sector, like a banking system. You see that suppose if you have an account in Axis Bank, then you can easily to move from the Axis Bank to the SBI Bank nowadays. So that is what flexibility is there in banking system. Similarly, the student also can move from one institute to another institute with the help of this system. So now break and continue. When the student want to take a break, he can take it and again he can continue. That is the flexibility with the help of the academic bank of credits. What are the objectives of academic bank of credits? The basic objectives is to promote student-centric education as per the student interest, Okay, we are encouraging. That is the one added advantage with the help of the ABC system. The focused learner-friendly teaching approaches. The student can choose the course from any university. That is what in the morning session SS Mantha sir has given information. So the student can choose a course from the Andhra University, a course from the JNT University, a course from the Gujarat, a course from the other universities. That means focus on learner-friendly teaching approaches where he like, there he can listen and he can complete the required credit, number of credits. Then those credits he can submit to the respective university. Implement an interdisciplinary approach and allow students to learn best courses of their interest. So one added advantage, as for the student interest, they can choose interesting courses. That is one added advantage of the NEP 2020. Enable students to learn at their own pace. This is what you see there. What are the functions of academic bank of credit? ABC is accountable for what? For the credit information of each and every individual student. For opening, closing, and validating the academic accounts of students. So this is one accountable system. What is the purpose of this CCZ function? Credit accumulation, credit verification, credit transfer, redemption of students. You see that. Suppose if I'm moving from one institute to another institution, I need to accumulate, and that institution has to be verified, and that institution has to be considered that credit transfer system. There it could be more helpful for moving from one institute to another institute or one discipline to another discipline. So that is what student flexibility and student mobility. And what is the validity of this credit system? Generally, as per the NEP documentation, I found the maximum period is 7 years. Sometimes maybe they can change the number of years also, 7 or 8, 9 years also. It depends on the regulations of the Government of India education body. 7 years, and students can redeem these credits. The credits can be redeemed, and students can seek admission directly in the second year or third year at any university. At any university, once you exit from one institute after first year, if you want to take admission for the second year, you can take admission in the second year or third year at any university in the country and outside country also. Outside country means as listed by the Government of India institutions. What is the importance of academic bank of credit? Students' freedom. So student, if he doesn't like it, he can move one institute to another institute. But this is very challenging task to institution management, institution administration. When he may go, when the student may come, that is what very challenging task. Drop out in any year and then exchange the credits. Another advantage, you see, drop out. Rejoin the same or any other institute in the future and continue their education. So that is the importance of the academic bank of credit. The innovative ABC and multiple entry exit system projects will serve the following purpose. You see that. What is the purpose of these two models introduced by the Government of India? The first one is to reduce the dropout. You see, after second year, if the student withdraw, then what certificate we are giving? One bad remark we are giving. That is what dropout. So this has to be replaced. How can I replace it? Once if he fulfill the required number of credits, then he may be going to get appropriate certification. So that is one added advantage with this new policy. And boost graduation enrollment ratio, you see that. Okay, gross enrollment ratio. The next point is allow different discipline combinations such as to enable multiple entry exit points. With the help of the multiple entry exit options, we can encourage the students in a different combinations. Now, flexible curriculum approach also. We need to frame the curriculum with respect to the multiple entry exit system. That is a very challenging task to all of us, how to frame this syllabus to satisfy all the learners. Next one is credit recognition, credit accumulation, credit transfers, and credit redemption to encourage flexible and lifelong learning. How can I encourage the student in the lifelong learning? That means by introducing this is the system, we can encourage the students for lifelong learning. Ground level challenges to be faced by higher education institutions in the course of multiple entry exit system. So there are certain challenges are there. How to overcome these challenges? But NEP policy is excellent for the student. But there are several challenges are there from the institution side. When you look into the institution, there are a lot of challenges are there. One is the dynamic admission management. What is the first challenging? Dynamic admission management. The dynamic number of students will be difficult for potential and lead conversions. You see, when we have a flexibility student mobility, how many students are going to take admission in my institution? How many students are going out from my institution? That is what dynamic. When it is a dynamic, then how you can hold, how you can, okay, provide the facilities for the student. And the choice-based credit system. This is allotting the courses of their choice in line with the norms will also be not easy to handle. This is also a very difficult task because of as per the student interest, if I encourage, then they choose a different, every student select their own interesting course. With respect to their interest, then it could be very difficult to handle the situation. This is a very big challenging task to all of us. Next, faculty allotment. Faculty allotment, because with such intake uncertainty, teacher people ratio will also be disturbed. You see, when there is a dynamic admission management process, then I may be having only 20 faculty, but suddenly in the next year, maybe earlier it was the strength is 200 students, but suddenly in the second year, maybe 400 students are there. In that case, how can I handle that situation? How can I maintain the ratio? This is also another challenging task, allotment. Next, time management is also very difficult in the NGP 2020. So that is what you see, that for each course such as a curriculum, credits, number of lectures, labs, tutorials will require a lot of time and efforts of administration. So this is a very big task to all of us as being a teacher. Next, course sequencing and credit distribution. So how to design the course and how to allocate the number of credits for the respective course. That is also a very challenging task because of the student may be moving from the one institute to another institute, or within the institution also from the one discipline to another discipline. In that case, how do you allocate the credits? And also we need to identify the prerequisite courses. Suppose the student is going to take the admission in the second year, what courses he studied in earlier? That is also, we must analyze it, and whether he has fulfilled the minimum basic requirements or not. If not fulfill the basic requirements, then we need to organize the bridge courses. Like we have to be identify the bridge courses who are going to take the admission in the second year. So that is very challenging task to all of us. And next challenging task to the institutions, holding the students. Because of in India level means the student can move any institute to any institute means this is very big challenging task. What is that? Holding the students, the same institution until completion of the degree. So these are the challenges of NGP 2020. Let us look into this slide, please. Some of the higher education institutions onboarded. You see already some institutions has been enrolled for the academic bank of credits. Okay, let us see, look into this, please, where my cursor is there, academic bank of credits, Ministry of Education, Government of India. This is the screenshot I have taken from the Ministry of Education, India. These are the institutions already enrolled for the academic bank of credit. So who are eligible for the enrollment of the academic bank of credits means only autonomous universities eligible. So that is what the condition is there. Affiliated colleges doesn't have any choice to enroll for the academic bank of credit. So that why they are not giving choice for the affiliated colleges means as per the NGP 2020 in the morning, SS Mantha sir also has given one statement, that is what they are going to remove the affiliation system within the 15 years. So that they are encouraging only academic autonomous universities, etc. So this is the system already started. So please, all of you, just think the people are having in their mind. So not started, but it was started. You see, this is the evidence information. Even University of Hyderabad also enrolled, VIT is also enrolled, and other private universities also enrolled. Symbiosis, let us look into these universities, or else you can go through the Ministry of Education Academic Bank of Credits link. But when we want to implement the multiple entry, multiple exit system, this is the most important, which is curriculum design. This is a key role. The development of curriculum that suit multiple exit options with a certificate, diploma, or degree after the first year, second year, and third year of graduation, respectively. Such qualifications may create a problems of equivalence. But I must give the equivalence. Suppose the student is coming from another institute to my institution. Once if he is going to take the admission in the second year, then what should I do? I have to be identify the equivalency. So this is very challenging task to all of us. But as of now, what process they used to follow with a nomenclature. But you see, the student may be studying different courses in different institutions, but he is having sufficient number of credits in the first year. Maybe for first year, 30 to 40 credits allocated every institution. Like 4 years means 160 credits. But the student is having the 32 credits. But what courses he has studied in another institution, in my institution not matching. In that case, what should I do? In that case, I have to be analyzed. In what aspect I have to be analyzed? In the respect of the how many H&S courses credits are there, how many respective value-based education courses are there, how many relevant domain courses are there. With respect to the percentage, you have to take a decision equivalency of the courses. That is the way you need to apply. Otherwise, we could not able to give a choice for the student who is going to come to our institution from another institution. The curriculum consider when I'm designing the curriculum, I must keep in my mind what is that? Solving problems. And another one also I have told you in the initial itself, that is what local context. What are the issues are there in nearby institution? At least one course introduce. That is good to the society. That is what you are giving back to the society. Solving problems. Next one is project-based learning and making innovations. So that means making innovations means you must encourage you must invite the industry. At least you have to be established 1 or 2 centers, like a center of excellences. Means not only for the research aspect, you need to focus on the commercial project. You need to focus on the project-based centers also, not only for the research. Self-learning and group learning should become integral to education with a scope to think creatively and critically. So this is a very challenging task to all of us, please, designing the curriculum and finding the equivalency of the courses from one institute to another institution. And also I must consider these are the things when I am designing the curriculum. The next point is the salient features of the new school education. I think you all know that a school education system. Now the school education system pattern has been changed. Earlier 10+2 system. Now the system is what? 5+3+3+4 system. So what is mean by first 5 years? You see that. So first 5 years is multi-level play or activity-based learning. And the next 3 years is play, discovery, and activity-based and interactive classroom learning. Next middle stage, experiential learning. You see that experiential learning is introducing in the middle age only. You see that class 6 to 8 standard only. The sciences, mathematics, arts, social sciences, and humanities. And in the secondary stage, you see that multidisciplinary study, greater critical thinking, flexibility, and student choice of subjects. You see, the student is going to get a choice even in the intermediate also. Once the student is going to get a choice in the intermediate, he can choose certain number of courses relevant to the computer. Once if he chooses a certain number of courses relevant to the computer, if he has excellent knowledge in the computer, then there is a possibility to enter into the IT industry after intermediate also. Once if he enter into the IT industry after intermediate, while working, he can complete his degree through the digital mode or through the online mode or any other modes are going to encouraging by our government of India in the coming years. So that is what added advantage to the student even after 10+ after intermediate, he can join. The board exams to be based on the knowledge and application. Okay, you know that I think Bloom's taxonomy. Okay, Bloom's taxonomy means remembering, understanding, applying, analyzing, evaluating, creative. So board exams should be focused on the knowledge and application orientation. And in the morning session also, SS Mantha sir has given one point, that is what mother tongue or regional language is the most important. So in the regional language, the student can easy to analyze, easy to evaluate, easy to find the best solution for the problem. So that is the added advantage of the regional language. So that's why the government is insisting to encourage the regional language courses also something. The school curriculum to be reduced to core concepts, integration of vocational education from class 6. Why I'm insisting that regional language is the most important means, suppose student is not studying after 6th standard or 10th standard, where he has to be survived, he has to be survive in the nearby villages only. When he want to survive in the nearby villages, what language is required? Which language is going to play the key role? The regional language. With the help of the regional language, he can easily to survive in the nearby his town or maybe nearby his village. Suppose if he withdraw from the education system, because of they want to speak with the neighboring, they want to speak with the local people also. Using the power of language for integration and for understanding of Indian culture and values is the intended objective. Even you see that our regional language having a lot of culture, that is also most important for happiness. Okay. In grade 6 to 8, focus is on vocational studies. So when we are framing the curriculum for the 6th standard to 8th standard, what curriculum I have to be considered? That is what you see that in the school level, which includes carpentry, electric work, metal work, gardening, pottery making, etc., etc. If these are the courses are there in the 6th to 8th classes, suppose it is not interesting to study after 8th standard. With the help of this is the skill set, they can easy to survive in this society. Okay, they could be helpful to the society also. So that we want to change the curriculum. We want to change a little in the curriculum, which we are preparing for the 6th standard, 7th standard, 8th standard. As for NEP 2020, there is some restructuring of the institutions. What is mean by restructuring is that in the present scenario, we have a n number of institutions, private universities, deemed universities, central universities, NITs, IITs, etc., etc. Nomenclatures are there. But as per the NEP 2020 documentation, I found there are 3 types of institutions apart from the IITs. Okay, what are the 3 types of institutions? One is a research universities, second one is a teaching universities, third one is autonomous degree. So what about affiliation? As per the NEP 2020 documentation, affiliation has to be removed within the 15 years. That is what the condition written in the NEP 2020. The research universities means you see that largely focus on research, teaching and community engagement. The teaching universities mean primarily focus on teaching with a significant focus on research, and autonomous degree granting colleges means primarily focused on undergraduate teaching. So this is what you see that now even my university, also University JNTU, they want to conduct the SWOT analysis. With respect to the SWOT analysis information, they want to take a decision whether we'll be fit for the autonomous degree or teaching university or research university. Now the nomenclature has to be changed as per the NEP 2020, the JNTU Research University or JNTU Teaching University or JNTU as autonomous degree college. So that is the nomenclature has to be changed from the next academic year as per the Government of India instructions. So now I hope you'll be going to see only 3 different kinds of institutions. The accreditation system will develop and use appropriately different and relevant norms for the 3 categories of higher education institutions. 3 categories means these are the 3. So I think you may be going to see that even NAC and NB also going to merge as a single entity. That nomenclature is National Accreditation Council. So that means they will be going to take the care of all the institutions in the coming years. By 2040, all higher education institutions shall become multidisciplinary institutions. That is the condition mentioned in the NEP 2020. But as of now, we all have a doubt. You see that suppose if I complete a degree from the private university, whether it is valid or not, whether it is equivalent to the deemed university, whether it is equivalent to the state university or not. These are the doubts we may be having in our mind. But for all those doubts, you see that this is the solution. You see, all universities may identify their domain strength and to decide eval into RUs or TUs. So all the universities are equal now as per the NEP 2020. No differentiation among the private university and the public university. The rules are common for both the entities. For both entities means for private and public. When rules are common for both, then how do they differentiate the degree? So that is what added advantage to the learner. If they completed their degree from the private or government, both are equal as per the NEP 2020. If that university has been recognized by significant body. Little question and answers, please. Only one question. In NEP 2020, the current 10+2 system to be replaced by a new curricular structure. What is the new curricular structure, please? Anyone can answer for this question? Anyone can answer for this question, please? You can send by message or raise your hand and answer this question, please.
See, 4335.
This anyone can answer. The answer is 5 plus. Let us see here is B. 5 plus 3 plus 3 plus 4. Okay. Earlier system is 10 plus 2. The 10 plus 2 is replaced by 5 plus 3 plus 3 plus 4. Okay. Next one. The NGP 2020 replaces, you see that National Education Policy NGP 1986, Nation Policy on Education. Earlier, you see that earlier nomenclature is Nation Policy on Education 1986, replaced by NGP 2020. So this is what. Thank you for your attention. Any queries, please, from the participants?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Dear participants, if any queries, please raise your hand. Sir, few queries are there, sir.
Yeah, madam, please.
Sri Hindu Narsimhulu, can you please unmute yourself and you can ask the query?
Any queries, madam?
Yes, sir. Actually, they have raised hand, but they're not responding. So, shall we wait, sir, for 1 minute? Not to.
They are on for lunch.
Okay, sir. Sir, thank you, sir. Thank you for your presentation. It is smorgasbord of practical and conceptual delicacies. Thank you once again, sir. And let me thank you, sir, for giving prominence to the theme of vocal for local community participation and conceptual understanding, which is imperative to holistic education. It would certainly mark a new discourse in the field of outcome-based education. You also underscored the issues of linear thinking in this non-linear world and the importance of having creative and intuitive thought process. So your presence is excellent, sir, and your questions, your questions, 2 questions, they're, I think, they're ready to answer also, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you very much, madam.
Yes, sir.
Shall I leave, madam?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah. Dear participants, we shall now pass for a quick lunch break and join back at 2 o'clock in this extremely interesting discussion. Thank you, everyone. Please join at 2 o'clock. The link is same. Please leave and join at 2 o'clock. The link is same. Thank you.